AITA for refusing to let my two close friends sleep over at my place after they lied to me about their plans. So, I, teenage girl, have two really good friends. One is a close friend, the other is my best friend since literally before we could talk. We've been inseparable since we were 1 year old. Recently, though, she's been spending a lot more time with this other close friend. I've been feeling kinda left out and honestly, a bit jealous, but I've been trying not to let it get to me too much. Today, both of them asked if they could crash at my place tonight. They made it sound like they just wanted to hang out outside and needed a place to sleep because they couldn't stay at each other's houses. I joked, but also kind of meant it, that it felt like they were just using me for a bed, since it seemed like the plan was just the two of them hanging out without me, and now suddenly I'm useful because I have a room. Later, one of them called me and admitted they were actually going to a house party tonight and didn't want to go home afterward in that state, so they needed a place to sleep, again, mine. They hadn't told me about the party at all, hadn't invited me, and outright lied about what they were doing earlier. That stung. What hurt more is that I only found out today that my best friend started smoking recently, something she always said she'd never do, especially since we all agreed we were against it. She didn't tell me, but she told this other girl. It feels like she's changed, and I'm being left out of the loop. So when they asked to stay over, I said no. I don't want to feel used, and it hurt that they weren't honest with me. But now I'm wondering if I'm being too sensitive or petty about this. Like, maybe I should have just let them stay, maybe I'm overreacting. AITA for saying no and feeling hurt that they lied to me and left me out. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA you did what was right for you and it's still right for you even if it upsets them. Commenter 2. NTA, you did the right thing, they were trying to use you. Not only did they not invite you to the plans they had but they tried to keep it secret. Honestly you should tell your friend how you feel about everything going on. Commenter 3. NTA and start making new friends. Commenter 4. Yeah, need to agree with this OP. You're growing up. Part of growing up is also realizing you outgrow some people as you navigate your way through life. These two have clearly decided you're only their friend when you can offer them anything of use. Take it from a 29-year-old who's had plenty of friends, had my rebellious phase also, just went different directions etc. Sometimes you just have to appreciate friendships for what they were and realize they've run their course. Hope you make some great friends as you're growing up who treat you how you deserve to be treated. Update. Thanks to everyone who responded. I really appreciated the outside perspective because I felt like I was starting to gaslight myself. So after I told them they couldn't sleep at my place, I honestly thought that would be the end of it. I figured they'd find somewhere else to stay and that would be that. But nope. Around 1 a.m., they started calling me non-stop, like 10 or 15 times. I texted back and said I couldn't talk because I was watching TV with my mom, and she was still half awake. Just to be clear, there was no way they could have snuck in without her noticing, and I didn't want to deal with that. Then one of them started sending voice messages and texting me again, saying stuff like, "Please, can we come now?" And then basically guilt-tripping me, saying they'd have to sleep at a random bus stop in the cold if I didn't let them in. So I replied something like, "You lied to me about just walking around at night, then I find out you're going to a party without even telling me or asking if I wanted to come. Now you expect to crash at my place. That feels like I'm just your backup plan. I'm not a hotel. I don't want trouble with my mom because you're showing up in the middle of the night. I already told you no. If you didn't sort out another place to sleep, that's not my fault. Please just go home." Her reply, "Yeah but bro you weren't invited lol, bro chill," then NVMIG, which honestly just confirmed how little she cared about how I felt. No apology, no acknowledgement, just brushing it off. That's the update. Comments. Commenter 1. Welp now you know they aren't your friends. Don't bother with them again. Commenter 2. The trash has taken itself out. Well done OP. You'll make better friends, I promise. Commenter 3. Drop them, you outgrow people. They showed they aren't your real friends and are only there when it's convenient for them, your NTA. Commenter 4. Yup, I had friends from high school that I outgrew, with whom, in retrospect, I should have cut contact much sooner. They were once really good friends, so I put up with their toxicity for a long time in the hopes those good friends would re-emerge again. Eventually I realized that wasn't going to happen, and I had just been wasting my time when I should have been focusing on finding new friends. So don't waste your time OP, find new friends. They're out there somewhere. Stories number 2. AITA for telling my sister that our parents don't have to agree with her relationship. My 21F sister isn't accepted by my 29M parents for being gay. For some context, my little sister is a lesbian. Our family does not support her decisions, but I don't give a FCK who she sleeps with. When she came out she was distanced from the family, but we started talking again after finding out our father is dying. After things in the family being rocky for a long time we decided to all get together at my parents' house. My dad said he wanted to put all of the drama and bickering aside, and if we have a problem with each other we can wait until he passes. Everyone agrees, including my sister, so I was expecting to have a nice family barbecue. My family wanted to meet my sister's girlfriend, and insisted that she brought her over. We were all excited to meet her. My sister's girlfriend seemed like a nice girl, but she was very standoffish. She kept to herself, and didn't speak much to my parents and me. For the most part she was glued to my sister. This caused some awkward silence. I started asking about their relationship. How did they meet, how long have they been together, and I even joked around about if she hurt my sister blah blah blah. My parents started acting stranger by each question. I asked my mom what was wrong, and her response was, "This isn't right." I could tell my sister and her girlfriend were uncomfortable, and my dad tried to calm my mom down. My sister, probably fed up with being treated like shit for the last few years, spoke up and asked my parents what was the point of inviting them if she wasn't going to be okay with seeing them together. This caused my mother to explode with anger because she felt like my sister was being disrespectful. My mother goes on to say a lot of other things, that I'm not going to say because I will be banned. My sister started to cry and hyperventilate. Her girlfriend starts to comfort her and tries to get her to calm down, and this causes my mom to tell her that, if you're going to be dramatic and act like a child, you need to leave. You're upsetting your father. Before my sister could respond, her girlfriend is grabbing their things and taking my sister to the car. I tried to rationalize this whole situation with my parents, they were no use. They thought she was putting on a show in front of her girlfriend to make them look bad. They proceeded to say that they're allowed to be uncomfortable, and feel differently than her. I explained to them that this is who she loves. No one has to agree with it, but we should still love her. I've tried talking to my sister about the whole situation, and apparently I defend our parents too much. I told her that our parents don't have to agree with her relationship, but they should. She told me that I'm being an asshole for expecting her to pretend it's be someone else just because our dad is dying. Relevant comments. Commenter. NTA, have you considered getting lost at sea for about 30 years so you don't have to talk to your family anymore? Seems like the best solution to me. Reply. I'm sure after my father passes we will go no contact with my sister again. Everything was okay until she came back around. I support her relationship and wish her the best, but I can't change the way our parents see her. Commenter 2. Info. Can you tell us all the horrible shit your mom said? Because if it's as bigoted and vicious as I think it is, you're definitely the asshole for not defending her. They set a trap and she walked right into it. Defend your sister. Reply. I don't think saying what she said would do any justice. It's probably just as vicious as you think, even more if I'm being honest. I should have defended my sister instead of trying to keep the peace with our parents, and I see that very clearly now. Commenter 3. Dude. When you go around known bigots, you warn any LGBTQ+ people, so they aren't blindsided, and cannot attend if they can't handle bigotry, and can harden their hearts against the cruelty they will experience. Your parents would have been jerks even if she hadn't been standoffish. Because they are bigots. Your sister didn't start drama. She prepared her GF accordingly, just like you prepare your dates if your dad liked to pinch you girlfriends' butts. That's what you do. Reply. First of all, my dad wouldn't do that. Second, I understand her telling her girlfriend don't accept her before coming. I'm sure she's known for a while. It's just hard for me to believe that all the drama with the hyperventilating and sobbing was real. Especially if she's known for years that our parents feel this way. If the situation is so bad, why put yourself through it? I'm starting to agree that maybe it was for attention, because why else would she be so eager to argue with our mom about her sexuality? I don't get it. I genuinely am starting to believe that she put on a show for her girlfriend and her girlfriend fell for it. Commenter 4. Your mother said such horrible things to your sister and her girlfriend that you can't type them out on fucking Reddit, and you think your sister was faking being upset about that? Reply. I think the hyperventilating and sobbing was very dramatic. I understand her being upset for sure, but my dad didn't deserve the drama. Commenter 5. Your sister deserved the insults. Reply. Not at all. I don't agree with my parents' opinions, but I do think it's uncomfortable to have to sit in silence for 2 minutes watching your sister cry and her girlfriend, a stranger, whisper sweet nothings to her. All while my mother is still angry and my dad is upset. Commenter 6. Oh well, you were uncomfortable for 2 minutes. That makes it all different. Your sister, who has endured a lifetime of abuse from her family, had an emotional breakdown and the only one who came to her aid was her girlfriend. Not you, of course, because just watching it was so uncomfortable. Reply. I understand and emphasize that this has been hard for her. I don't think she deserves to feel bombarded for her sexuality. I'm very happy for her that she's in, what seems to be, a healthy relationship with another loving woman. Her girlfriend comforting wasn't the problem. It was the timing, and taking her away from our family only made it worse. Her and her girlfriend made my father's, probably last, family event about them and my sister feeling excluded. If you have never lost a parent, you won't understand how frustrating this is. I really hope my sister heals either way, and finds a way to manage her panic attacks. Update. After receiving so much backlash from this post, I realized that I wasn't completely innocent in this situation. I called my sister to apologize and try to talk through things. I told her about the post I made, despite wanting to keep this away from my family, and said that a lot of people explained to me how I'm being harmful and hurting her. I wanted her to see that I'm talking to some people who have been in a similar situation to her, and I thought she would see this as a sign that I'm trying for her. She got really upset that I didn't come to her instead of the internet, but I told her I felt like I had no other choice. Our parents wouldn't listen to me, she wouldn't listen to me, and the only people who have are strangers online. I explained that I got a lot of advice on how I can support her from other people a part of her community. My sister told me that I had no right to talk about her business online without consulting her, even if it's anonymous. She wanted to see the post. I assumed that she saw some of my comments I made when I was being defensive and immature, and in hindsight I should have deleted them before agreeing to send her the post. She started to cry and told me that we've always made her feel like a burden on our family for things that she can't help, being lesbian, having a panic disorder, and some other things that I won't share out of respect for her. She went on to say some other things, but they were hard to understand. I apologized for making her uncomfortable and making her feel like a burden. I also told her that I love her and nothing will change that. Before I had the chance to say more, her girlfriend took the phone and told me that I needed to leave my sister alone. She said that I can't contact my sister until she's ready to talk to me. Then she hung up. It was really heartbreaking to hear my sister cry over something that I had good intentions for. I texted her privately and asked if she wanted me to take the post down, and she told me that she doesn't care, she just wants to be left alone. Relevant comments. OOP on why the post isn't deleted and staying up. Please don't try to explain my sister's feelings to me. She knows about the post, she's seen my comments, and she said she didn't care if it stayed up or not. If she's reading it, which is more than likely, that's her choice. I haven't defended my parents since I talked with my sister. I haven't deleted this or the comments because every now and then someone actually gives good advice instead of arguing with me about something they know nothing about. Stories number 3. My MIL decided to gossip with my daughter about my marriage, blowing a giant hole in my life. My wife cheated on me nearly 10 years ago. I won't get into the specifics, as they're unimportant, but due to the fact that I saw blame on both of our parts, I forgave her and we moved past it. My daughter is 16 years old, and she only just found out, from my MIL, who seems to have decided she was old enough to hear the family gossip, and that she would be mature enough not to confront her. Initially, my wife thought I had told her, and came into my office where I had been, to ask me what the hell I was thinking, and if I was trying to destroy their relationship. She and my daughter have been strained for a couple years now, lots of arguing, on both sides. She refused to believe that I hadn't said anything at first until my daughter entered the room and joined in on the screaming that I was too weak and her own mother had sold her out. The fighting went on a long time, and honestly I may as well have not been there, for all the good I did. I tried to step between them when I was concerned, but that only ended with some ringing in my ear. Eventually, my wife left to cool off, and my daughter and I could talk. She wasn't happy with me either, and didn't hesitate to tell me so, but she wasn't screaming or throwing shit anymore, so I just let her get it out. She asked me why I stayed and I was honest, that I was no perfect husband, and I decided not to end my marriage, break up our home, and destroy her childhood for something that I held blame in as well. The entire time I was speaking, she just kept watching me with this sad face that made me uncomfortable, but when I finished she just shook her head and said that I needed to leave my wife, and that the cheating wasn't the only issue. She started bringing up every insignificant flaw my wife has. She brought up my wife getting angry at me because I had put too much creamer in her coffee, for example, just trivial crap. I told her as much but she just kept shaking her head. It ended up turning into an argument where she insisted I was some sort of victim, and making some kind of getaway plan. I kept trying to talk her down, but that was going nowhere. I first tried my wife, but found my call went straight to voicemail, so I called my MIL to inform her of the situation, but my wife had already made it there, and planned to stay overnight to calm down, because she didn't want to see either of our faces. It's been a few days now and I still haven't seen her, or heard from her, but her mother informs me she's okay, just very emotional. So I'm also scared for my wife. She has had mental health struggles before, and if she's going through that again, I should be there to help. Edit, to the people who have commented, or private messaged me to say I shouldn't care. My wife almost died the last time she had an episode, and I don't think even my daughter, as angry as she is right now, wants her mom dead. My daughter told me she hopes her mother never came back. I'm just feeling defeated and tired. I've done everything I can to keep this family floating, and somehow I'm still failing. It's beginning to feel like I always do, at everything, and always will fail at everything, as long as I live. Comments. Commenter 1. Okay, few thoughts here. 1. MIL is completely in the wrong. It's no one's business to fill daughter in on family gossip, that includes her parents. 2. I'm sure some of this is normal teenage rebellion crap. However, your wife got angry about too much creamer in the coffee. You say trivial stuff, but how often does wife get overly sensitive about trivial shit? There is a point where it becomes you managing wife's emotional outbursts instead of wife working on her own issues. Does daughter have a point at all? Commenter 2. Yeah, because that's an odd thing to get genuinely angry over. And it makes me wonder why mom and daughter were butting heads to start. Maybe mom's not just abusive to dad. Commenter 3. Gotta say it OP, and you probably won't listen, based on your comments that I've read. Your wife has issues and you're covering it up with, but she's a good person and not answering when people say her behavior is abusive. Let me tell you a story. I'm a good man and husband who has plenty of faults, but about 10 years ago, I got into an argument with my wife and neither of us was listening to the other, we were just feeding each other's anger. That went on until I spun around and smashed my fist into a wall. That act of violent release made both of us stop, and I will never forget the look of terror on her face when I turned around to apologize. I didn't have any intention of hitting her, I didn't threaten her, I just needed to let off the built-up anger I was feeling in a way I had learned worked for me. Turns out that scaring my wife woke me up to the emotional issues I was having, and now I'm heavily medicated for bipolar disorder and can have rational discussions and even arguments with her and never feel the need to violently release my emotions. If your wife blew up at you about the amount of creamer in her coffee, she's going to keep verbally and emotionally abusing you, and maybe your daughter too, until she gets to a point where throwing things or hitting something, or someone, becomes the best way for her to calm down. See how escalation of release works. First, it's discussed things to resolve issues, but when that stopped working, it became yelling and screaming. The next thing will likely be throwing and/or breaking things, but when that stops working. I'll let you fill in the rest, because honestly, if your daughter calling you a doormat didn't shake you loose, I don't know that I can say anything to help. Update. It's been a while. I probably will regret posting this as much as I did the first time, though for different reasons. Before I begin, I want to thank all the kind people who reached out with genuine advice and with whom I had lovely conversations. I appreciate you more than I can say. Checking my history, I saw that I never updated after the conversation with my daughter about her situation with my wife. We talked, and it went worse than I expected, but better than most of the comments. She never hit my daughter or threatened her. My daughter did bring up the yelling, and I listened, though she said she was never afraid of her mother, but she started to hate her when she noticed how she treated me, hence the change in appearance and rebelling. She liked that I stood up for her when it came to her new style, because then I was standing up for something. That makes me laugh a bit now, but at the time, I was confused. We talked a long time, and she said she thought maybe she could get over the resentment she had for her mother if she didn't have to see the way she treats me. I didn't much like that at the time, and I admit I argued that I was an adult and she didn't have to fight my fights for me. My daughter said something like, "If I don't, who will?" and it just kinda stopped me in my tracks, because my only answer, "Sometimes you have to pick your battles," sounds weak when you pick none of them. I still intended to try to work on my marriage, despite the comments. I really hope to turn things around because of their previous relationship, and frankly, how much I still loved my then wife. But then she didn't come home for weeks. I don't know if it was my daughter's needling, or the fact I could tell she was upset at being abandoned by her mother at the first sign of trouble, but one day I eventually reached out and asked my ex-mill when my wife was going to come home and act like an adult, and was told she was looking into divorce attorneys, and that if I wanted her back I should really work on getting my daughter to apologize. It all felt so manipulative, and I just got so angry. I just hung up and spoke to my own lawyer. After being served, she tried to come back and cried that it was her mental health, but I was still so angry, I just shut her down and told her to leave. Divorce was finalized a while ago. My daughter stays with me most of the time, since her mother moved out of state afterward, and she wants to go to college in the area when the time comes, but visits MIL, and speaks to her mother on the phone sometimes. As much as I hate to admit it, their relationship is improving since the divorce. I don't hate my ex-wife, even if many, including my daughter, categorize her as abusive. She's the first woman I ever really clicked with in that way, and though I don't love her anymore, probably the last. I don't mind it so much. I have a full life without her around, and a quieter one as well. But, anyway, thank you all again for listening, and I am bracing for, I told you so's. I don't blame you, you did. Comments. Commenter 1. Glad she's your ex. Your wife was abusive. It takes a while to come to terms with, but your daughter was right and I hope you're happier now. Leaving abuse is really important for the kids involved. Commenter 2. She thought your daughter should apologize. You will be so much better off without her. Reply. I'm fairly certain she wanted my teenage daughter to pretend she didn't even know. Which is ridiculous, and regardless of my feelings on the incident, that wasn't going to happen. And I wouldn't want it to. Commenter 3. Your daughter saved all three of your lives. Your wife was abusive. Your daughter was being abused, and so were you. I'm glad she was adult enough to finally put an end to this madness. I really hope your ex-wife gets serious mental help and your daughter doesn't have lasting effects from it. Reply. From what I know, my ex is finding herself. Good for her. I never even knew she was lost. My daughter is a strong young woman. Stronger than I ever was or ever will be. I am more proud of her than I can possibly explain, even without this situation. She's the best part of my life, and to quote the old sayings, when I count my blessings I count her twice. Stories number 4. Husband is disappointed, sad that spending time together makes me happy. The TLDR of my relationship is husband and I have been together almost 9 years, married for 2.5, we're both around 30 year, had our baby 14 months ago, the pregnancy was a surprise birth control failure but we both wanted kids and were happy. We had discussed ethical non-monogamy in the past, but put the discussion on hold during pregnancy. After I gave birth my husband brought it up again and started really pushing for polyandry. He also took on extra work as I had to stay home due to daycare costs eating up more than my monthly paycheck would cover. He started pushing me off on his family and wouldn't ever be home to help me or give me a break. He told me to go to his mom for a break, and all he was good for was bringing home money. Throughout all of postpartum he's basically insinuated, if not outright said, that he doesn't want me to rely on him or want him around. At 6 months postpartum he pushed for us to open our relationship. I hated it. He was disappointed when we closed it after a month. I also went back to school full-time at this time and have maintained a 4.0 since. We've been in couples therapy for about 5-6 months now. We each have our own therapists too. Baby was also EBF and I still nurse her 2 to 3 times a day and plan to do so until at least 18 months or so. Alright, so that's the background. Now we're in therapy, and I thought it was working. The last few weeks he's worked less and made time to hang out with me and our baby more. He's planned outings for us, taken us for bike rides, been home to cook dinner and do chores, and to watch the baby toddler so I can have some me time or some friend time. It's been so nice, and I mentioned to him that it made me happy, and thanked him for doing all this and making progress like we've talked about in therapy. On our walk this morning, and in our last therapy session, he said it made him disappointed that I was so happy with spending all the time together. He said he noticed that since he didn't spend so much time doing extra work, he'd normally work 60+ each week but cut it down to closer to 50 each week, and hanging out with us more at home, that I'd been happier, and that it just proved to him that he was the problem. He said that everything he wants is a problem, and when he doesn't do or get what he wants then I'm happy. He said he's happy spending time with me and our baby, but he's disappointed too. I don't care what to even think of this. I'm just hurt that I've dedicated so much time and energy to this relationship, to raising our baby, who is absolutely incredible, and that I've been told I shouldn't be asking more of him, and that when we do spend time together he might be happy in the moment, but seems to look back at it with regret and disappointment. I don't care if he's even happy to be with me. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like he sees our relationship as holding him back, but when I try to tell him this he just says it feels like I don't trust him. He says that lack of trust makes him not want to try. I tell him I'm trying to trust him, but he keeps doing this same pattern of spending time with us and then pulling away, and then the cycle repeats. I don't want him to pull back away. I don't want him to tell me I shouldn't need him. That's when I can start trusting him again. Right now I'm always waiting for him to stop engaging with me and to just always be away. He struggles a lot with negative self-talk and negative self-image, so I try not to say negative things when describing what I want out of our relationship, or how I'm hurt. But then he just puts words in my mouth, feels self-pity, shuts down and stops talking to me for a day or more. What do I do from here? How do I even address this? What do I say to our therapist? TLDR. My husband is disappointed that spending more time with me and our toddler makes me happier in our relationship, and he can't just do whatever he wants and have me be fine with it. Relevant comments. OOP on her husband helping her with her PPD. Reply. There was a time over the summer when my PPD was really bad. One day I asked him to come home from work early. Another day, a week or so later, I asked him to stay home entirely. He's a construction worker, so not always with the same company, and that company didn't ask him to come to the next job with them. He said that after he left and stayed home to help me they all treated him differently and sort of isolated him. Instead of being upset with those misogynistic assholes, he was upset with me, and sometimes still brings it up as an example of how I can't handle myself and the baby on my own. I've told him his frustration is misplaced, that I shouldn't be blamed for needing him, and if a job can't be understanding that a new dad may need to help his wife and child that it's better he doesn't work with them anymore. He just gets more frustrated. Caring for our kid is our job, not my job. Commenter 1, sounds like he didn't really want to be a monogamous partner or a parent, he may have just been ticking off boxes on the life milestone list, get married, have kids, so on. Either way, at least he's gained some self-awareness and realized he's been a crappy husband and father. He's shown you a pattern that is likely to repeat itself. Reply, I keep telling him this, that for the past year this pattern has repeated. He'll be more involved for a couple weeks, then throw himself back into work and I'll have no support from him. He asked me today how long it will take for me to trust him, and that he feels like he's being timed. I said there is no time limit, the change has to keep going. I see that he's putting in the work, but I've seen that before, and I want it to actually stick, or for him not to put up such a fight about it if it does start to slip into him working too much again. Commenter 2, I've seen this kind of thing happen when people get together very young, you guys seem to be 21. You likely didn't get a lot of dating and relationships in before the two of you were together. He isn't happy, he said it by word and deed repeatedly. He doesn't want you to be happy in this because he wants out. He wants to be with other people, again he's shown this through word and deed. Do you want to be stuck with someone who does not want you? Do you want to be with someone who resents you for wanting to only be with him? Reply, he dated a lot of people before me. I only dated him, I went on a few dates, but didn't have any relationships. He said about 2-3 weeks ago that maybe we should separate. I went to my parents' house with the baby. He started apologizing and changed his actions. Now he's upset. I'm happy with the change. It just feels like a big back and forth. I'm getting tired of it. I'm scared to not be with him though. I love so many of the people where we live, and I know I'd be the one giving that up, those friendships and supports I had to build while he was away working and doing whatever. It's just so unfair. He didn't have to stay with me if this wasn't what he wanted. But he made every effort and attempt to say it was, to commit himself to me and us. But once we have a baby he wants out. He wanted me to keep the baby. He doted on me all through pregnancy. Commenter 3, the pregnancy was a surprise birth control failure but we both wanted kids and were happy. Are you sure you weren't the only one happy about this? Whose birth control failed? I'm guessing it wasn't his because very little of what you have shared tells me that he wants to be a parent. Therapy is not the answer. You guys want completely different things. Reply, I had a copper IUD. Baby implanted next to it. I sent him a picture of the test, then he met me at the OBGYN for ultrasound confirmation and IUD removal. He cried when he saw the pictures and said he was so happy and wanted to be a dad. I was hesitant and said we could consider an abortion due to life circumstances and the surprise of it all. He said it was up to me. We decided to keep the baby. Commenter 4, how much longer until you finish school? I would honestly focus on being done so you can secure higher earning potential for yourself, quietly talk to a divorce lawyer so you can strategize the best time to file and seek spousal support and child support, and then leave and let him do whatever the F he wants. He doesn't like being a husband or a father and he seems manipulative and selfish. Reply, 2 years and I'm done. Update, I had gotten in contact with a divorce lawyer's office and had a brief consultation with a secretary. It wasn't too long and I haven't done much more gathering of info because I've had 10 different final papers projects presentations happening and just don't have the time or energy to work on it right now. Since his last comments things had gone back to getting better. We still spent time together with our toddler, and things were starting to feel fun and like we were getting closer again. Then we went for a walk today. On our walk he asked me how I thought things had been between us. I said I thought they'd been good, that I liked spending time together. Then I asked if he was still feeling the same way as the last time we talked about this. He basically said yes, that he's disappointed that he's the problem, and if it wasn't for him we wouldn't be in couples therapy. He also said that he doesn't ask me to change anything for him, which is BS, he asked me to be poly with for him. I felt frustrated at this, because I'm not asking him to change, I'm asking him to do what he had done our whole relationship before he changed. He used to make me homemade picnic dates, surprise me with my favorite snacks and coffee and drinks, or my favorite chocolates from a European-style chocolatier. We'd go on a date every weekend, and hang out every evening. We'd text constantly, and always found new things to talk about even after almost 8 years. Then once the baby was born he began pushing me away, telling me I shouldn't rely on him, while also pushing for a polyandrous relationship. He told me he would burn the fumes in his tank to make sure others were taken care of, but then tell me he couldn't give me those same fumes when I needed him, or even anything from his tank when it was full. It was so the opposite of how he used to treat me, and I told him this on our walk. His response was to say he accepts that he was at fault, but I wouldn't be convinced of his position no matter what he said. I told him that he's not accepting he is at fault if he keeps trying to convince me otherwise. In our next couples therapy session I'm going to bring up that I think we've been both sides ing the issues in our relationship. I'm guilty of participating in this, I'll defend him and try to protect his ego and work together. But honestly, I haven't done anything wrong in this regard. I've acted and reacted in an impossible situation that my husband has put me in. I just don't know why the birth of our child changed him so much, made polyamory into such a fixation of his when that time and energy for his self-discovery should have been put into directly caring for myself and our baby. He keeps trying to make excuses that he didn't get to do much the first year of her life, but he went on multiple hours-long hikes and dinners with his friend, went on a solo camping trip, slept over at another friend's house for their birthday instead of coming to the first family outing I had planned since giving birth, went hiking and rafting a couple times with the significant others of some of my friends, went on dates with me, went on dates with other people, had dinner with friends, went on solo bike rides where he'd be gone for multiple hours or even all day. And his comeback when I point this out to him? It's not as much as he usually did before the baby, he only got to ride his motorcycle once or twice last year. I could have done all those things too. Never mind that I was exclusively breastfeeding our baby, and going out anywhere meant having a portable pump and refrigeration options on hand, never mind a space where I could actually comfortably sit and pump for 20 to 30 minutes in the middle of activities. I don't care just what the fuck happened. How did I go from a devoted and loving feminist-minded husband to whatever he is now? Whatever. I'm still going to try and fix things because maybe at some point he'll see the light, but at the same time I'm going to begin to craft my exit plan. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, wait, so his tank is on fumes but he wants additional partners. He can't take care of the relationship he has but he wants more of them. This man was never a progressive feminist, and is acting like an entitled baby. He has a child and a wife, and he's acting like he didn't ask for either and he's a victim. I don't think there is a both sides here, and I would seriously reconsider any couples therapist who lets him get away with thinking both of you are contributing to him being entitled, disengaged, and selfish. Reply, yeah, I've been frustrated by that in therapy, though I think our therapist is trying to follow our lead a little bit because he knows he can't fix it for us and is trying to help us figure out how to fix it ourselves. I've also been contributing to it and presenting things that way because I'm not trying to avoid responsibility for things, but yeah, it's not my fault things are the way they are. Commenter 2, what did he expect when y'all became parents? He's a dad now, and shit gets real when you have to put all your energy, money, blood, sweat and tears into raising them right. It's not going to be a bed of roses the whole way, and I'm sorry that he's placing the fault on you. You don't deserve to be treated like the problem when it's him that's making insane demands on you. You're doing the right thing, girl. Reply, thank you. It's not like he didn't expect it, or at least he was aware. We talked throughout the pregnancy about how everything will change, how it already had changed for me, how my life and my plans were pushed back a year because of pregnancy and postpartum. He got to keep much more of his life and freedom than I did. Yes, he took on extra side work to bring in some of the money we were losing with me staying home, though we would have lost even more if I'd kept working, but all the time he was working I was taking care of our baby. And all the time he wasn't working I was taking care of our baby. Commenter 3, he was never a true feminist. Oh sure, he was a feminist when he was getting sex more regularly and he was the main character in your life. But after baby? Patriarchy says he's not supposed to be the caregiver. Patriarchy says it's normal for you to be a burned-out mess, not his problem. Patriarchy says it's normal for him to want sex with other people no matter how his wife feels about it. So he believed it. It benefits him. That's the whole story. Maybe he gets his head out of his ass and decides to actually build a loving and successful life with you, someone who really wants that. But that's going to be an uphill climb because he's already figured out that just following the scripts he's heard all his life ensures his life really didn't have to change half as much as yours did. I would really hone in on that with the therapist, and if the therapist tries to, both sides, fire that therapist. You don't need a therapist to act like you're the problem here when you 100% are not. I feel for you and I think it's wise you're keeping an exit plan. Reply, I just don't really know how to make that exit plan. I'm not working as I take care of the toddler full-time, and am in school on a full-time schedule too, squished into 2 days a week while my parents take the little one, so I'm not making my own money ATM. I don't graduate until 2027, with a master's, woo, so I either have to stay with him until I get a job after graduation so I can afford my own place, or I have to move in with my parents before that, who don't really have the space for us but can make it work. Commenter 4, seriously no, just break up. This is a complete waste of time and energy. I was rooting for you in the last post and I felt that reading this is waste of my time and energy lol. Just break up. Reply, thank you. I feel like my wheels are just spinning on this too. It feels like every time things get better lately he tells me he's not fulfilled. I don't care why he won't just break up with me then. What does he want to fix if being together makes him feel so bad? Stories number 5. AITA for telling my brother his special needs kid is just kind of a brat. Okay. So this blew up over the weekend, and now I'm stuck replaying everything in my head, wondering if I crossed a line. My brother, 33M, and his wife, 32F, have a 7-year-old son, Ben. For the past couple years, they've been saying he's neurodivergent with sensory issues. No official diagnosis though, just a lot of "we're still figuring things out" and vague stuff from Google. I'm not saying they're making it up, but it's all a bit murky. Ben is intense. Like, if food touches on his plate, he loses it. He'll interrupt constantly, scream if something doesn't go his way, throw stuff. The whole house stops when he has one of his meltdowns. They say it's him expressing big feelings, and they usually just try to soothe him. No real consequences, ever. Now, I'm not a parent, I get that. But I'm 35. I've babysat, I've been around kids, I'm not totally clueless. Anyway, over the weekend I visited them and offered to watch Ben for a couple hours while they ran out. I was honestly kind of dreading it, but here's the weird part, it was totally fine. I laid out a few rules right away, no yelling, no throwing stuff. If he did, I'd take a toy away for 10 minutes. He tested me once, I followed through, and then he just chilled. We played with Legos, he was actually really sweet. Even ate veggies at lunch without a fuss. It was kind of shocking. When my brother got back, I told him it had gone really well. And then, and maybe I should have shut up, I said, honestly. I think he just needs firmer boundaries. Everything changed. My brother's face went red. His wife looked like I'd said something unforgivable. I got hit with, "You don't know what we go through, you're not a parent, you think we're faking this?" They said I was cold, judgmental, and that I'd probably traumatized Ben with my discipline. Now I'm back home wondering if I totally screwed up. I don't think I was cruel, I was calm and consistent. But maybe I overstepped. Maybe there's more going on than I can see in a few hours. Or, maybe they've just given up on setting limits, and it's easier to say it's a diagnosis than to admit they're overwhelmed. I love my nephew. I really do. But I also think kids need some kind of structure. And I don't know how to say that without sounding like an asshole. Stories number 6. AITJ for not begging my boyfriend to still date me when he broke up with me. A couple of weeks ago my, now ex-boyfriend of 2 years, 21 meters, randomly texted me, 19F, saying he wasn't happy anymore. I called him right away, and he said he'd call me back but he never did. When I tried again later, he ignored the call and just texted, "I'm done." For a couple of days I wasn't even sure if he was seriously breaking up with me. I kept reaching out hoping we could talk things through, but he ignored every text and call. Eventually, he told me that initial message was his way of ending things and that he thought it was obvious. Fast forward to yesterday, we met up because we agreed to try being friends. I started sharing my plans like moving out of state and traveling, and suddenly he got emotional. He started crying, asking how I could just leave him like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, didn't you leave me? Then he said he was still in love with me, that he wanted to be with me, and that when he sent that breakup text, I was supposed to chase after him, like show up at his place and beg. Apparently ignoring me was part of some test I was supposed to pass. I had no idea. I just thought he didn't care enough to answer his phone. Stories number 7. Coworker peed in my drink. Title: What would you do if your coworker peed in your water? I have a crazy coworker who was fired this week. She caused a huge scene at work on her way out. The event in question happened Monday around lunch. I took a sip of my water and gagged. I don't know how to explain it, but you know the taste of urine when you taste it. I immediately freaked and made my immediate coworkers in the area look at and smell my water. They all smelled it, but only 2 of them said it 100% is urine. I was in shock and wasn't sure what to do. I am up for a promotion, which is probably what upset this coworker to begin with. She was fired the same day for unrelated reasons. I did not immediately go to HR, but my coworker who smelled it was so distraught she did after I left to report it. I came in the next day hearing all the drama that went down and went to HR as well. They won't show me the footage and have been minimally cooperative. What would you do if you were in this situation? I know I shouldn't care, but I do feel sorry for the coworker because this kind of behavior has to be mental illness. I did nothing wrong to her except she was angry about feeling mistreated and underpaid at work. Sum of comments. Commenter: and you feel sorry for her? Because she got fired? And she's the one who peed in your water? Wow. You're better than me. Reply, I just mean I would not want her going to jail. I don't know, I am older now and have a child and she is younger. It is indefensible and disgusting, but I don't know why I feel sorry for her, because I know if I pursue it in any way it could ruin her life. Even though I know she deserves it. Commenter, from the perspective of feeling sorry for her, think of it this way: if she goes to jail over this, she'll learn, even if it's the hard way, now while she's younger, and therefore she'll have time to turn her life around. Whereas if she doesn't learn until much later in life, she'll have already spent decades ruining her life, and that'd be much harder to fix. Reply, thank you for this perspective. I am really struggling with this because I genuinely liked her even though she's always been a little crazy. It is still shocking to me someone could be so vile. Commenter, if she gets away with this, how far could she go with someone else? Or even to herself? Reply, this is why I feel like more needs to be done. The HR department is worried about protecting the company and said, what else can she do to you, aka why would you report this? And I popped off on her. It made me feel belittled and gaslit. She was trying to make me feel like I had no reason to do anything else because she was fired already. Commenter, make a police report. You want a paper trail on the person in case they go after you. If they're mentally ill, hopefully you going to the police will help this person. Reply, this is what I told the HR person. I was annoyed that I felt like I had to defend my reasoning with her. I said someone who would urinate in someone's water bottle is capable of anything. If her and I get in a fight outside of work, I need proof she assaulted me first. Commenter, HR is there to cover the company. As far as they're concerned, the other person is not an employee anymore, so there's nothing to investigate. HR is trying to limit the company's liability. They aren't going to give you evidence. File a police report and talk to a lawyer. You don't have to sue the company, but they need to treat a lawyer differently than they treat you. A lawyer will be able to get you the answers you seek. Reply, this is what is making me even consider a lawyer. I hate how they treated the situation and were being weird about telling me what evidence they have, etc. Go see a doctor, get the liquid tested. I called my DR, she said she has limited knowledge, but since it was a small amount it should be fine. Yes, I am thinking the police will get it tested, but was thinking about getting it tested separately as well. Commenter, what, you're not taking it seriously enough. File a report. I would absolutely be livid. Reply, I know. Normally I would be flying off the handle. I don't know if it is a trauma response or what, but I have been so calm and trying to think it through. I am also on medications for anxiety and depression, so maybe that has kept me calm. When I was younger I would have automatically confronted her regardless of consequence. I guess the only way I can explain it is even though you know what it is and how it happened, you always question yourself, you want proof because it feels like what if you are wrong? Anyone who smells it is automatically repulsed and gags. Update, I have decided to file the police report and also press charges. They are coming to my place of employment on Monday. I still have the water bottle locked in a cabinet. It hasn't left the building and the cameras will prove that. My work is pressing charges on her for unrelated theft that she was fired for. To answer, how do I know it's her? My workplace is huge, but we work in a locked area with expensive equipment. Less than 10 of us have a key to get into this space. There are 3 doors to get into this studio space, the same key unlocks all 3 doors. All of the studio employees left together early on Thursday and Friday. We were closed for Good Friday. I drank the water on Monday right before lunch. I was there all morning, so it did not get tainted Monday morning. It would have happened sometime between Thursday when we left at 4 p.m. and Monday morning when I got there. I was the first and only one there Monday morning as usual. This co-worker stays late all the time and will go into the studio while we are gone. There are only 2 areas in the building without cameras, and it is the studio and inside the kitchen and obviously bathrooms. I know she stayed late on Thursday because someone who shares a cubicle area with her said they were here until 6:30. I also know it's her because the other thing she was accused of was kinda crazy, and also she caused a huge scene etc. when she left. There's nobody else with cause. The CCTV footage they have should show her as the only person going in after we all left for the day on Thursday, but they won't share the info with me or show me the footage. I have an appointment with the police on Monday at my workplace because they are filing the theft charges, and then I will file my complaint. I don't know what they will do, but if they won't test it I will. The water is absolutely foul and disgusting, so it is extremely obvious something is inside it. My work said they will pay for any testing, therapy, etc. related to the event. Update post. My workplace has been straight up lying to me about the video footage not showing anything. My direct boss told me he found out that security said nobody has requested to view the videos yet. They have been putting me off on calling police, telling me that they've been gathering and collecting evidence for the theft crime. The police were supposedly called on Friday as well as today, Monday, but nobody ever showed up. The loss prevention guy kept telling me that they told him they were extremely busy. I sent out a scathing email to the VP of HR and my two supervisors expressing how unhappy I am with how they have handled this entire situation. I told myself if I received no word from police by 2 p.m. I'm calling myself. I called the non-emergency line, and as soon as I told her my story she put me through to emergency 911 and the police were there in less than 2 minutes. When I initially told him my story he seemed very skeptical and said I don't think we can do anything, you can test it yourself. I explained I don't want to take it out from the building because they could then say I tainted it myself. He called his supervisor on the phone because he said he was unsure what to do. When he came out I said to please come with me to examine the bottle, look at it and smell it. I also told him I googled it and it said assault by bodily fluid is a felony. Once he examined it and smelled it, he gagged. He left again to write the report and make some calls. He came back and said this is considered a class 1 felony and they will be pressing charges. I didn't have a choice in the matter and that CSI would come out to take swabs. She, CSI person, did not say anything but I could tell she also believed it to be urine in the bottle. She dusted it for prints, nothing. Editor's note, I am assuming OOP means there were no fingerprints besides their own or that there were no viable fingerprints in general, and took swabs of the mouth area and the liquid inside. She also took photos of me and swabbed the inside of my mouth. She recommended me to go to a DR and be tested for any communicable diseases. They told me it would take 1 to 3 weeks to process the swabs and I would have a detective assigned to my case. My work is freaking out trying to do damage control, but it's too late, they handled everything so poorly. I honestly feel like I could win a lawsuit, but I'm not trying to pursue that, just disappointed in how they chose to handle everything. We are anxious because this co-worker is obviously unhinged, and if she went this crazy over a promotion, don't know how she will respond to these serious charges. Not sure what will happen with my promotion, but I could not just act like nothing happened. I'm so glad I posted on Reddit and got everyone's viewpoint to gas me up to realize this was so wrong. The cop and CSI lady seemed mortified and said they'd never been a part of a case like this. That's all that has happened as of today, and I have a DR visit on Wednesday. Some of comments on OOP pursuing legal action against the company. I am anxious, I did not want it to go this way. Honestly, the Reddit comments really gassed me up and made me realize I was being gaslit in this situation. Everyone was trying to move on like it was another day, but after I made my Reddit post I realized this situation is insane and not right. I am happy I stood up for myself and the company is not in trouble yet, but I have no idea what is next. They said they will get back in touch with me. Maybe some of these HR people will be fired, I don't know, but I made it clear she was wrong in how she chose to proceed and talk to me. Commenter, just please make sure it's documented and mostly that you are safe. You have a crowd of people rooting for you. Keep your head up. You have the power in you. Reply, thank you. I did send the email threatening to contact a lawyer and listing my demands, which was viewing or telling me what was shown on the CCTV, which they ignored. That's when I called the police because I was over it. Everything will be documented. I wrote a very detailed timeline and emailed it to them and gave one to the police before I forgot all the details. I should have included all the lies, but I didn't know they were straight up lying until after everything went down. They just said, we haven't seen any evidence on video of her being alone and having the chance to do this. Not sure what to do next or if they will still offer the promotion. What a hot mess. And now I have to be worried that this crazy girl is gonna lose it even more when she is given this info. I am not scared of her, but my other female co-workers are terrified. Commenter, your employer will likely want to settle out of court for something like this, especially if it's on camera. Reply, I guess I am still feeling unsure because I have received confirmation yet of the substance or from video, but honestly the CSI lady and the police reaction to the smell really made me feel reassured, like okay, I'm not crazy. But okay, thanks for the advice, I will make sure everything is via email or in writing. The original report the HR lady did was her scrawling on a notepad, no signature or anything, I didn't see what she was writing. So my scathing email I sent included a very detailed timeline with dates and times of everything that happened from my point of view. I wanted it tracked via email that I said this. Do not sign anything given to you by the company without a lawyer present. Okay, thank you. I was wondering, are they going to try to get me to sign an NDA? Okay, I will not sign it right away. I'm pretty stressed out, like I was supposed to get a crappy promotion this week. Commenter, you 100% should pursue a lawsuit. Any attorney would have a field day with this situation. Also, I hope you're okay. Reply, thank you, I have felt fine honestly besides being disgusted. The police and CSI told me to go see a DR to run blood work just in case. They said if anything came up to add it to the police report. I made the appointment for Wed morning. Commenter, hey, don't mention the word lawyer to them. Just say you want time to read it. If they flat out ask you if you are speaking with a lawyer, look confused and say, should I? The less you say the better. Don't tip your hand or try to look smart in this kind of meeting. Don't give an opinion or act like you know what you are going to do. Your goal is to buy time and not appear hostile. Reply, okay, thank you for this very specific advice. My supervisor just came down and said what the police said to you. I kept it kind of short and didn't really answer much. I just said they'll let me know in a few weeks. My husband said I need to delete these threads if we go to a lawyer though. I will post an update when everything clears though. I appreciate everyone's support and suggestions. Update comment. Update as of May 2nd. I have kept the bottle even after the police took their evidence. I googled it and it said urine will start turning into an ammonia smell, cat pee, and now it reeks and smells exactly like cat pee, my cat's litter box. The idiots at my job still have said and done nothing for me. They haven't even offered me a day off. I have not been able to go to the DR or call the lawyer because I'm working every day, doing the job above what I'm supposed to be doing, while my direct supervisor has gone on vacation. They were supposed to offer me the promotion the day the incident happened 2 weeks ago, editor's note, assuming that OOP is meaning 2 work weeks ago in the sense that a full week of work has gone by since, and still have not while I continue doing the job of the girl that left the company that I'm replacing. I have been the victim of a crime on their property and they are punishing me even though I did nothing wrong. Honestly, it's lighting a fire under my ass. I have made an appointment and will go forward with at least talking to a lawyer. Stories number 8. AIO after suggesting anger management and a possible break after my husband hit me in the face lightly, calling it a warning tap. I am F23 and my husband is M31. We've been together for 5 years and married for 1. This is a throwaway account just in case. About a week ago my husband and I got into an argument over his phone, which he had misplaced. I was in the shower when he lost it and when I came out he was throwing a fucking fit over it. He was like, "Where did you put it? Have you seen it?" Angrily yelling and snapping. Red flag. I said I hadn't touched it and I needed to get dressed. My husband was standing in the doorway looking behind the door so I couldn't open it. I said, "Hello, move please." Apparently my tone was rude because my husband turned around and shoved me into the room. I was like, "Okay, you need to calm down, I can help you look but I gotta get dressed." He tells me to hurry up. I snap back, "I'm not gonna hurry up, it isn't my fucking fault." My husband turned around and hit me on my mouth with the back of his hand. It didn't even really hurt but I was appalled. He called it a warning tap because of my attitude. I left right then and there. I called my mom and came over. I haven't left. My brother took me over the next day to get a few things. My husband asked me if all this really necessary and I said yeah, it is when you abuse your wife. He was so stricken that I called it abuse. He screamed at me for it. He said I can ruin his career if I use that word. I know that I can and I know that he didn't even hurt me, but that's how I feel. He sent me several texts threatening to divorce me if I use that word again, or try to hurt his career by saying it's someone important. Stories number 9. My 33F girlfriend makes significantly more money than me, 35M, but never offers to pay for anything. How can I bring this up without sounding like a gold digger? My girlfriend makes a little over $300K USD annually. I make $80K. We're both divorced, however mine is fresher, 2 years versus her 5. I bring that up because I'm still paying for it financially. I had to take out a huge loan to pay off my ex, lawyer fees etc. She always talks about how she's investing X amount here, Y amount there. Meanwhile I'm paying for all of our dates on my credit card, because I don't have any cash. I don't expect her to give me money for my problems, that's absolutely not what this is about. My issue is whenever she wants to go on a date, to a new restaurant, movies, whatever, she never offers to pay. Not even split the bill. I usually just suck it up and offer to pay, because that's the gentlemanly thing to do. She invited me to a concert last week, I didn't even know the artist, and the day before said, "I'm sorry, I just realized I only purchased 1 ticket, I thought I got 2. I ended up having to pay almost double the price, $120, for a last-minute ticket to a concert she invited me to and initially said she had 2 tickets to. Another example is when I spent a whole weekend building a playground in her yard. It took me around 18 hours of work. I didn't expect payment, but I would have accepted her treating me to dinner. After I finished it, we went out to eat and yep, she didn't offer to pay again. How can I bring this up without sounding like a gold digger? Edit, I think she does love me. We've been together around a year now and I think we're happy. I'm just struggling financially dating her. Stories number 10. My wife cried because she was cruel to me, and still haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Hello, I've never posted here, I'm sorry, I really don't know exactly how to start to tell this story, especially, because I know it makes me look like a total prick. My wife and I have been together for around 4 years, married after 6 months dating, and it's been mostly a dream since then, except for this one thing. She just likes to laugh and goof around, and a lot of her joking around tends to hit in the opposite effect than intended. I'm normally not gonna get upset about that kind of thing. It's not an everyday thing, but maybe weekly. Okay, ton of context out of the way now. Last night my wife and I both had a hard day at work. I think. We didn't get to talk about it, because the minute we got home there was more work. You know how it is, dogs made a hell of a mess. So we were pretty stressed and out of it, and all I wanted to do was watch the movie she picked out and go to bed, but then she decided it would be funny to drop a couple jokes about my appearance, specifically about one aspect of that appearance I have problems with. That day, I was just so tired and upset already, and I just looked at her and said, "Ow," and she laughed again, but I didn't drop it, and I insisted on an answer to why she would say that about me. She asked what I meant, and I asked what response she expected when she made fun of me for my appearance, particularly part of it that she knew I felt bad about. I almost did the children's empathy talk, where you go, and how would you feel if someone did that to you? But I knew that would be condescending and wrong, so I didn't. Anyway, I wouldn't have gotten much out, because this is when the crying started. I didn't get to see it stop for long all night. Just big, heaving sobs, and shaking, telling me that she thinks she is going to have a panic attack all night long, because I scared her by being so serious. I am not an angry person. I've never been violent. I never moved from the seat when I brought up the mocking thing. She had no reason to think that, and I could think of only one reason for her to cry like that, and this is where I'm gonna sound like a prick, and why I'm doing this anonymously. She saw that I was calling her out for making fun of me for no reason and wanted to change the vibe and feeling in the room as quickly as possible, to instead focus on her having an episode. This isn't the first time this has happened, but it's the first time I've noticed a pattern. Step 1, she upset someone. Step 2, she will have a panic attack if you don't comfort her right now, actually. Step 3, I shove aside any and all feelings I have on the matter, no matter what it is about, apparently including mocking me. But if I didn't, she would have a genuine medical episode and we could wind up in the hospital. If the person offended is not me, they may also be brought in for emotional support, but I will be. Do I really think that's what it is? I want to say no, say bad, but a part of me does. Don't get me wrong, 99.9999% of me isn't a prick, but that very small part. It's something I cannot stop thinking about, and I don't know if I want to bury myself alive or go to marriage counseling, because one of us have a problem, because if she is doing that, what? But because she isn't, instead I have the problem, and currently feel like I am going through some kind of psycho-werewolf transformation type thing. Totally normal and cool with my wife right up until the full moon is out, and then I turn into a rabid animal and accuse her of faking her mental health diagnosis, apparently. Like the monster you are. XD. Update, my wife cried because she was cruel to me, and still haven't been able to stop thinking about it. So I didn't think I would update, because after we talked about my thoughts on the issue, it was an even bigger panic attack and sobbing and asking if I thought she was evil and all this other stuff that made me feel like a devil incarnate for ever even beginning to doubt her. We went back to the usual and I had to deal with more of it. I didn't mention in the last one, but this issue she had didn't just apply to me, it was for everyone and everything that could upset her, and no matter what therapy or med she was prescribed, it did nothing at all. It wore me down so bad I was sleeping badly and just about lost my job because I couldn't focus, because what if she had a panic attack at work? What if I wasn't there and she needed me? We had been genuinely talking about her quitting her job, at least until we found something that worked to combat the stress and anxiety she seemed to be feeling all the damn time. All of which made me feel all the more pathetic after I found out she was cheating on me. The guy worked with her, and reached out to tell me because he didn't know she was married. I knew I couldn't confront her in person because her reaction would likely make me think the guy made it all up, somehow, despite having texts he showed me from Ann to her number, and photos I'd rather not discuss. I just moved out and took my dog. Calm down, she never even liked him that much, hasn't asked about him once. Anyway, I texted her that I knew and was going to talk to a lawyer and asked that she did the same. A lot of crying voicemails and saying she didn't know what I was talking about, followed by trickle-trothing in text messages while I was on my friend's couch. We're still in the middle of everything, but it's pretty cut and dry, hardly any marital assets worth speaking of, and the lease is in her name. I honestly am surprised by how little heartbreak I actually felt, coupled with a weird sense of relief. I definitely thought getting cheated on would be the worst thing anyone could do to their partner, but if it wasn't a dick move I would thank her. Anyway, thank you all so much for the advice, even if I was too stupid or weak of spine to take it at the time. It was helpful for just a little bit to not feel crazy. Stories number 11. My cousin's wife tried to put their young son on a plane flight with me. Oh boy, here we go. I've lurked on this subreddit for years but stopped due to the pandemic for mental health reasons. But I wanted to tell this story for a while now. Let's start from the beginning. It was my very first semester as a college freshman. I officially moved into my college dorm to start this new chapter of my life. I'm an international student, so it was a tough experience once reality settled. Thankfully, I had my cousin whom I haven't seen in years and his wife who lived in Dallas help me with getting a US number, bedding, and school supplies. Fast forward to Thanksgiving break. I accepted my cousin's offer to go to Dallas for the break since it was better than staying in the dorms. I met his 2 kids, a son and a daughter. We catch up with each other, seeing how our lives went up to that point. The break ended and went back to college to study for finals. Then it happened. My cousin's wife asked for a favor via text. The favor? Take their 8-year son home back to the Caribbean with me because his godmother wanted to see him. I told her that wasn't able to do that because I didn't know when my exams were finished. I actually did know when. I just told her that so she would leave me alone or do something herself. I already made up my mind with my mom's support that wasn't doing that. Fast forward weeks later. I was chilling in the airport minding my own business when my good cousin called me. He asked if I was doing something for his wife. I told no and explained myself. He thanked me and I thought that was the end of it. But no, I saw her with their son holding a suitcase and a carry-on when I was walking to my gate. My cousin was nowhere to be seen. I asked her what she was doing. She gave some sob story of how his godmother wanted to see him and told him that he'll be good as he was hugging my leg. I was shocked. I felt my heart race. The groups were being called and I had to make a decision. Note, I just turned 18 at the time. I barely knew this child. I like to have everything in order and pre-plan to avoid confusion, and this would complicate everything. Furthermore, immigration would be on my case. Finally, I don't know who his godmother is or how she looks. I told her no, stating that if she wanted to do this they could have planned a family trip together and not dump their kid on me. She said that she already bought the ticket and I might as well take him. I told her no again and went on my flight. My family was proud of me for standing my ground as they didn't like her either. Turn out that sometime after or during the pandemic, my cousin and his wife got divorced. Understandable. His now ex-wife went behind his back trying to get his son on an international flight when they could have planned a family trip together. Thanks for reading. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, well done for not bowing down under pressure. You absolutely did the right thing. I can't fathom what goes on in the minds of people like this. I mean, how that even makes sense to anyone. Even if you had agreed, I would think you'd need, at least, notarized letters giving you permission to take someone else's minor on an aircraft, let alone to a foreign country. Reply, thank you. It was my first grown-up decision. To be honest, I don't know how people like her function. She's basically putting her son in the hands of a stranger. I met the son during my break. Overall, she probably only cared about herself. This was almost 5 years ago, so I'm not sure if she had notarized letters. Commenter 2, I highly doubt she even bothered with notarized letters. She was trying to pull a dump and run at your expense. Reply, considering that she went behind her husband's back and did it while he was at work. I won't be surprised. Trying to send their son to his godmother. Not even to an actual relative. Commenter 3, flying internationally with a child requires documentation, especially when not immediate family. They probably would not have let him board. And possibly detained you, causing you to miss your flight. Reply, that's what I'm saying. My grandpa works for an airline, so he knows the rules and regulations. For all I know, she probably had some story to say that we're close cousins to avoid using proper documentations and just let us on board. Commenter 4, I'm getting this hunch that the kid's father knew nothing about her being at the airport and had not given any permission for his young son to leave the country this way. I'm not surprised your cousin and this entitled idiot are divorced now. Reply, and your hunch is correct. I took a morning flight back home. So it was around 8 or 9 a.m. when he called me about his wife. I had a good hour or half hour before she confronted me alone with their son while at the airport. So my cousin was probably at work when this all happened at the airport. OOP clarifies the timeline when this incident took place. Reply, they got divorced after this incident. The story was in 2018 and their divorce was around 2020 to 2021. Commenter 5, you said that your cousin had 2 kids, a son and a daughter, so where was the daughter? Why was she only trying to send the son away? Either way, it was absolutely not okay to do, and I'm glad that you stood firm. Reply, she was stricter with the daughter, so the daughter was probably home when all of this happened. Also thank you. OOP explains how the wife managed to find them at the airport. Reply, she had a good hour to find that gate for the morning flight. I already went security at the regional airport I was in before I arrived in Dallas, so I had no idea how she herself got through security in Dallas. All I know was she and her son were in a nearby sitting area where my gate was. I think there's some confusion. I was in Texas for school and I was going back home to the Caribbean for the winter break. She wanted me to take their son to the Caribbean with me so his godmother could see him. My cousin and his wife lives in Dallas and I was in one of the neighboring counties. So my first flight took me to Dallas where I met her and the son at the gate where my next connecting flight was, which would have taken me to Florida, and then another flight that would take me home. Hopefully this clears up any confusion. Update. For those interested in the backstory, here it is, the backstory. I saw my good cousin again around 2 years ago for a family event. He brought his son with him. My family told me what happened. He and his wife obviously got divorced, likely around the pandemic or slightly before. My cousin got full custody over of his son and became a good kid. Now he has a new and awesome girlfriend. What happened to his ex-wife? She moved back to the Caribbean and that's all I could tell since I removed her from my friends list and other members of my family doesn't care about her. That's the end of it. Sorry it wasn't as insane or engaging as other stories, but sometimes it's good to have some normalcy. My cousin's wife tried to put their young son on a plane. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. What happened to the daughter? Reply. She's fine and either went to college or went into the workforce. Commenter 2. I think she was trying to kidnap the kids out of the US jurisdiction. Luckily Op didn't. Cousin would have a hard time to repatriate the son. Reply. I literally met his wife and son that year. I have no emotional attachment and legal obligations to them whatsoever ever. Seriously, who was even his godmother anyway? Commenter 3. That's probably why she picked you to trick, since you didn't know what was going on. Reply. It's been 7 years since then, but even then I knew she was on the bullshit. I don't remember the conversation clearly, but my mom and I both agreed not to help her with this scheme. I had finals so I ignored her texts and calls hoping she'll get the message. Then this woman pulls up to my gate with the kid. I operate on a tight schedule and like to have all my things in order before I do anything. So I don't know what made her think I was going to agree with it. She didn't offer me anything to convince me to consider it. Just take the kid and deal with it yourself was her idea. Commenter 4. How did she know what flight you were on? What time? What gate? What airline? Someone had to have told her. Who? Reply. My school was outside the metropolitan area, so I took a regional airport to get to the international airport, meaning there's only a limited amount of flights. I think my good cousin told her because he didn't know what she was doing. Commenter 5. I think what happened there is that the ex wanted to take the child to the Caribbean to keep the child there. She was trying to use you to kidnap this child after custody was granted to your good cousins. She didn't want to face the legal consequences of it all, so she tried to rope you into it. You literally avoided jail time by not taking that child to another country. Reply. I never intended to take him in the first place. I told her if she wanted to take him to the Caribbean, they could have taken a family trip. Stories number 12. AITA for refusing to attend a few sessions of my dad and his wife's marriage counseling. This argument started 3 weeks ago. But I need to go back to a little over a month ago for context. My dad called me, 19F, and asked if I'd go out for lunch with him because we needed to talk. I agreed and we went somewhere private and had lunch, just the two of us. While we were there he asked me how I felt about his wife and whether I loved her and what she was to me, from my perspective, and then he gave examples of second mom, mom figure, best friend, or special adult. I asked why he was asking the questions and he told me it was homework the marriage counselor set for him, and he told me the answers were important. He said his wife was feeling like she was only in my life because they were married and that I didn't care for her much either way. I told him she was right. That I didn't love her or see her as any of the things he mentioned. I said the most I could say was she was his wife and I respected that he loved and wanted her, so I accepted her for that. He told me that didn't mean I didn't love her though, and he asked me a bunch of questions about if he died, they divorced, if they were both elderly and needed care and my half-siblings couldn't do it all, or if they both needed care and my half-siblings were too young to care for them, would I care for her like I would for him? I told him if they divorce I wouldn't stay in touch with her and it would be the same if he died. I told him I'd take care of him. That I loved him. That he gave me a good life. But I wouldn't do the same for her. I tried to insist that the questions stop there, but they didn't. He wanted to know if I didn't love her at least like someone I'm very close to, and I told him no, and I said I'm not very close to her. He said he didn't think 12 was too old to form a close bond with a stepparent, and I told him maybe not for some, but for me it was. He asked me if I hadn't wanted him find someone to love who could be a maternal figure for me. I told him honestly that I believed him when he swore for years after mom died that there'd never be someone else. That I wasn't mad about it not being true, but he blindsided me when he told me at 12 he'd fallen in love and was getting married again. I told him I was 10 or 11 maybe when he last said there'd never be another after mom, and I believed him. A couple of weeks after that my dad told me I needed to join in the marriage counseling sessions because his wife was feeling like shit and we needed to all come together and find a way forward where she felt loved and wanted by me. He said he was worried his marriage would end if we didn't figure it out. I told him I wasn't joining their marriage counseling and that it had nothing to do with me. He told me it had everything to do with me because she didn't want to stay married if she was merely tolerated by me. He said we needed to figure it out as a family, and he told me if I don't go it might break his wife's heart enough that the marriage ends now. But I put my foot down and said no again. He's asked me every week since and my answer hasn't changed. He said his wife broke down at their last session and said she didn't want to have a family that wasn't whole and that the counselor had wanted to speak to me too. He said my refusal was killing his marriage and I should figure out a way with his wife because if they were together long term she would be around my kids and she might not want to be a grandparent to them if I'm indifferent to her. Stories number 13. My M27 girlfriend, F23, and I became parents. She refused to admit it until the hospital. How can I support her? As the title says, me and my girlfriend became parents overnight. I know it'll all sound so insane and some people will call it rage bait, but I'm not here for people to say that. Basically the moment I thought she was pregnant was in early December 2024. My phone's battery was dead and had to use her phone. When I opened Google search I saw a lot of pregnancy-related questions there. I obviously confronted her to ask what's going on. All she said was that it was all a phantom pregnancy. So okay, in early January this year I asked again. Her reaction to that was a sick-eyed attempt. I apologized to her and tried to comfort her. How didn't I notice? Her body didn't really show it out that she was pregnant. Since she has always been a bit bigger than other women I wasn't able to tell. So, in 31st of March she seemed so weird the entire day and in the evening she told me that her stomach hurts a lot. So I said that we should call 911. She said no, but I decided to call 911. When they came she refused to do tests. Finally when one of them asked for like 5 minutes she agreed. The nurse wasn't really nice person and called my girlfriend fat. But they basically forced her to go to the hospital. My girlfriend was so shocked the entire time and called, "Get this monster out of me." Then we arrived at the hospital where they confirmed she was pregnant. My girlfriend yelled that she doesn't want it and won't do it. When we were taken to the room for labor she said she wants to put the kid up for adoption. Of course I was sad because it's also my baby. So, the contractions came. She screamed and begged me to end her life because it simply isn't possible for her to be mom and pregnant. The delivery went smoothly. In the end we were taken to some really good hospital room. Next morning the nurses, doctors and social worker visited us. My girlfriend was treated like she was some psycho who didn't know that she was pregnant. We got out from hospital on the 6th of April. We live in a rental home. When we came back her parents had cleaned our home and most of her makeup and stuff was gone. She angrily called her mom after that and said to me that for her there's nothing more important than her looks. Flash forward today, she has started to obsess over my freaking ex, I don't know why. And maybe it's because of pregnancy hormones. Side note, she has bipolar disorder and is farmer self-harmer. What can I do to get my lovely GF to be happy again? Stories number 14. Went on date with girl, hit it off with her friend. I met up with a girl at a bar with her friends, our first time meeting. The girl I met up with and I had fun, kissed a little, was fine. But her friend and I really seemed to connect. She was with a guy but said they'd only hung out twice. Now the girl I met up with wants another date, but she said she's going out with a lot of people right now and doesn't really know what she wants. I don't care if I want to waste my time with that. Is it fucked if I follow her friend on Instagram in hopes of a follow back so I can DM to grab a drink sometime? OFC the worst she can say is no, and her friend that I went out with would stop talking to me, but I need you people to help me ignore my moral compass here to make the move. Thanks. Top comments. Commenter 1. Option 1. The polite but risky thing to do is be upfront with girl 1 that you had a great time with her but just don't see long-term potential, and ask if it is okay with her if you give things a shot with her friend. The risk here is she gets upset and poisons the well with girl 2. The upside is she helps set you up and you have nothing to feel guilty about. Option 2. Cool things off with girl 1 and covertly pursue her friend. Establish your connection with girl 2, if it works out, and then together decide how to disclose the relationship to girl 1. This is likely to lead to some sort of awkward situation and risks making you appear a little slimy for going behind her back, but keeps the control of your destiny more in your hands. Really depends on if you think girl 1 is chill enough to facilitate option 1 for you. And she just might be if she indeed has lots of good dating prospects herself. Commenter 2. This happened to me. I went on a second date with a guy and he later met my friend. He was attractive, but I wasn't attracted to his personality. He hit it off with my friend and kindly texted me and asked if it was okay if he pursued my friend. He even offered to set me up with one of his friends. I declined this offer. He was nice about it so I texted my friend, and she was interested so I gave him her number. They went on a couple dates, and didn't work out in the long run. But it didn't bother me. Update: I took your guys' advice, and decided to do it the nice way. I asked the girl I had gone on a couple dates with if I could grab her friend's number, since it seemed like me and the girl I originally went out with were looking for different things. She was talking about all the dates with other guys she had lined up, and I liked talking to her friend a lot. She said yes, and gave me her friend's number and told me she would be happy to help. Said if I wanted any advice to let her know, whenever I needed it. I then texted her friend, mentioned how I had enjoyed talking to her and would love to grab a drink sometime. She responded that she felt the exact same and would love to. From there, the texting was kinda dry, which had me confused, so I texted the girl I originally went out with, saying I appreciate her help but it doesn't seem like her friend was interested. It was then that she revealed that it was her guy friend this whole time whose number she'd given me. They both then said some rather mean things, and they seemed to get great joy out of fucking with me. I responded, fair play haha. That's that. I shot my shot, nothing else I can do. Not even mad, just surprised people like this exist, especially in the late 20s. Edit: I don't want this to be an opportunity for people to virtue signal to themselves that this will happen to them or that people are inherently evil. Always shoot your shot. I would and I will do it again. You can do it, and so can I. Wanted to make sure that the vibe on this post isn't too negative. Love you guys. Edit 2, life is short. To those of you saying I'm a dick for being honest to myself and those around me, so be it, I'm a dick then. Top comments. Commenter 1. I'd be really tempted to start signing up those phone numbers for all kinds of spam texts and calls after that. Commenter 2. People get a kick playing with other people's emotions. I know OP is optimistic, but I think that those people deserve to be called out. Garbage people only do this because they think they can get away with it. They should be confronted on the spot. Commenter 3. For anyone reading this, remember other people putting you down is a reflection of themselves, not you. I pity people who need to put others down to make themselves feel better. It really shows how little they think of themselves, which is quite ironic. Stories number 15. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law stay at my house after she made rude comments about my home. So, I, 30F, live in a small, cozy house that I've worked hard to furnish and decorate over the years. My husband, Tom, 32M, and I don't have kids yet, but we've always made our space work for the two of us. A few weeks ago, my sister-in-law, Jenna, 28F, visited from out of town, and she asked if she could stay with us for a few days. Now, I've never really been close with Jenna, but she's family, so I agreed. When she arrived, she immediately started making passive-aggressive comments about our house. Oh, it's so small. I wasn't expecting this, and is that the best furniture you could find? It looks kind of cheap. At first, I brushed it off because I didn't want to start a confrontation. But then it kept going. She made fun of the paint colors I chose, called our kitchen dated, and even asked if I had considered upgrading to a better neighborhood when I mentioned the area we live in. I was getting frustrated, but I didn't say anything right away because I didn't want to make it awkward. The breaking point came when she commented on our bathroom, saying, I mean, how do you even live like this? No wonder you guys don't entertain guests. At that point, I told her that she was being disrespectful and that if she didn't have anything nice to say, she could leave. She got really upset and said I was being dramatic, that she was just telling the truth, and that people need to hear the truth sometimes. Tom and I had a huge argument that night because he thinks I overreacted, and I should have just let her be. He says it's family, and that I should have tolerated it to keep the peace. But I feel like it's not okay for her to come into my home and make me feel bad about the choices I've made. I don't think I should have had to tolerate her behavior just because she's family. Now I'm questioning if I was the asshole. AITA for asking her to leave after all the comments. Stories number 16. AITA for making my sister's gender reveal cake gray because she wouldn't tell me the gender. I, 22M, bake as a hobby, and I'm actually pretty good at it, like I get paid under the table for weddings and baby showers, kind of good. My sister is pregnant and wanted me to make the cake for her gender reveal. Cool, no problem. I asked her to send me the info so I could prep the inside classic pink or blue filling. She says, oh no, I want to be surprised too. Just make it neutral for the reveal and we'll all find out together. I was like, huh. So you want a gender reveal cake with no gender revealed? She says she'll have someone email the info to me later. That someone never did. Deadline comes, and I still have no gender. So I make the cake. It's gray inside. Gray outside. Just full on cement vibes. I even added little fondant clouds for effect. It still tasted great, but visually grim as hell. The reveal day comes, they cut into it, and my sister looks pissed. Her husband is confused. People start murmuring. Then she pulls me aside like, why would you make it gray? That's so passive-aggressive. Calmly reminded her that no one told me the gender. I literally had no data to work with. I told her I wasn't about to guess or go full improve on someone's baby cake. Now my mom says I embarrassed her in front of the family and that I should have tried harder. Tried harder to do what? Summon the gender through vibes. So. AITA for making the most neutral reveal cake in history. Edit. I actually did follow up, asked her a couple days before the reveal if the info had been sent, and she just said something like, yeah, someone's taking care of it. I figured it was handled. I didn't want to pester her since she seemed chill about it at the time. Stories number 17. Dad hates my house and apparently expects me to take in my brother's children at some point. I don't know if this is the right sub for this. But in this moment, as the only blood-related woman on my father's side of the family, it feels gendered. I don't care, maybe I'm wrong. A few days ago my dad came over to my house for the first time in quite a while. I've had a lot of renovations done since he last saw the place when we first moved in. I have a nervous system condition which, while very fortunate to be able to manage it in such a way that it usually doesn't impact my life most days out of any given month, can render certain simple tasks very difficult for me when I'm having a flare. It's also important, as part of managing my condition and maintaining my high level of function, to limit certain activities which can bring about a crash or a flare. My husband is also disabled, he has hypermobile EDS, so together we made a list of things we'd love to have as accommodations in the home we share, and we either DIY'd those things or found contractors to do them for us. I'm really happy with the results. I find that these accommodating renovations make my life a lot easier, I have fewer crashes, and overall more energy. My husband is elated with how much more functional he can be after we made these changes. My father isn't a fan. He thinks it all makes the house too weird. He's worried about the resale value, not that we're planning to sell anytime soon. He had a lot of comments when he came over, in fact it was almost all he talked about. I kept trying to gently tell him that this is just what works for us and then divert the subject, but he was getting a bit worked up, which isn't really like him in those types of situations. The plan for his visit was he'd come over, meet my foster dog that he might adopt, and take the dogs for a walk, then get lunch. When I left him alone for a minute to go use the bathroom after we'd walked the dogs, I came back out and found that he'd attempted to pull one of our accommodating mechanisms out of the kitchen wall. He hadn't caused any functional damage, but he did cause aesthetic damage in that it will now need to be repainted over. I was shocked and kind of hysterical in my reaction, and I raised my voice at him when I saw what he was doing. I think I yelled, "What the fuck are you doing, Dad? What's your problem?" And he responded, "I just wanted to see if it was removable. Sorry. It's just too weird. It's too weird, it's just not going to work when Billy and Bobby move in with you." Billy and Bobby are my nephews. My brother's kids. I have never invited them to stay with me, let alone move in, for any amount of time, and I've never been asked to do so. Even in the event that my brother and sister-in-law passed away in some tragic manner, to my knowledge I should be very far down a very long list of people who could be asked to take those kids in before I would be asked. So, I was pretty shocked my dad would say something like that out of the blue, and with so much frustrated emotion, about Billy and Bobby moving in, because there's no reason, to my knowledge, for anyone to think that would possibly be happening. I asked him to clarify repeatedly, but he just waved it off and told me to forget he said anything and he didn't want to talk about it. I pressed him and all he said was, "Well, honey, it's a massive house. You have room for 2 boys. When I asked him why he would even bring it up though, and clarified that not only did I have absolutely no desire to host my nephews for a visit let alone to move them in, he clammed up again and just said, "Forget I ever said anything." He apologized for damaging my home, immediately transferred a larger sum than necessary to me via Zelle to fix the scratch he'd made, and then took me out to lunch as we planned prior. The rest of the day with him was pretty normal, and I guess I was just a little shocked or something because I didn't bring it up again. But now that it's been a few days I can't get it out of my head and I'm so annoyed. First of all, my dad hasn't ever been and would never be that aggressive about any decoration or renovation in my brother's homes. He just wouldn't. And I can't help but feel that he is less respectful of my home because I'm a woman. Which sucks, but more upsetting, confusing. What the fuck was he talking about in terms of my nephews? Like, is my family conspiring in some way to move those kids in with me? It wouldn't be the first time that my family assumed I'd take care of those kids without asking me first, but in the past it was just babysitting, and I have directly told everyone that even that is unacceptable, so I would be really shocked if my brother still thought that was acceptable. I guess I'm just spinning out and don't really know what to do about it. I'm stuck between asking my father about it again first or just reaching out to my brother directly. Sum of comments. Commenter: is there something wrong with your brother that he can't raise his own kids? Reply: no, nothing wrong. To my knowledge my brother isn't looking to move his kids out of his own home either. They are sometimes difficult kids. A little delayed and a lot entitled enabled. In the past they've leaned heavily on family for childcare since my brother has a demanding job and my sil has a hard time being alone with her kids. When I lived with my dad I was a big part of that equation and ended up being more responsible for those kids than I'd have agreed to, because I wasn't in control of telling them if they could bring the kids over as it was my father's house. But even when I still lived with my dad I was able to establish some boundaries and assert that I wouldn't agree to care for them on demand, and that was generally respected after I put my foot down a few times. Commenter, I'd definitely try to get more info from your dad, but failing that it wouldn't be bad to talk to your brother. It seems like a really out-of-pocket thing to say unless he has some serious information you don't. Reply, it's incredibly out-of-pocket. Not only do I not want those kids to live with me, but I also would assume that my brother wouldn't want his kids to live with me. There are a million reasons why, but chiefly it wouldn't be a good idea safety-wise for those kids. I've been dealing with a stalker for years who has already threatened me that she would harm my nephews, at which point I distanced myself from Billy and Bobby, stopped picking them up from school etc., and the threats directed at them stopped. Currently I'm working on taking legal action but nothing is set in stone and even the idea of those kids, who are difficult but who I also love very much, being in my home makes me worried that they would be directly targeted or that there would be some escalation. I actually can't imagine that my family would think it's a good idea to move those kids in with me. Like, I can't imagine circumstances where that would seem appropriate. Commenter, yeah, particularly given that information, but even without it, it's hard to imagine your brother or sil would want or expect you to take in their kids short of some kind of serious health or relationship emergency. And even then, that wouldn't be something for your dad to be concerned about unless he's a particularly worrying person. Reply, even if there's an emergency, I simply cannot be the first person on their list to take those kids in. I'm the only younger female blood relative I guess, but there are so many other relatives and family friends who need to come before me on that list. My brother and Sil have a massive village, so I'm talking dozens. It's baffling to me that it would come down to me to take those kids in under any circumstances. Commenter, the fact that he was actively trying to tear your house apart is a huge red flag. My bet is your brother is getting a divorce and they were just going to dump then on you since his job is so demanding. Reply, honestly, I feel like a fucking idiot that the two of them getting divorced hadn't even crossed my mind. Not that they have an actively bad marriage or anything, but I think their dynamic is weird and I guess I wouldn't be shocked. Thank you for this insight. I mean, either way it's a no from me for various reasons. Commenter, better yet, group text to them, guys, I'm worried about dad. He came over the other day and kinda flipped out about our disability acclamations and tried to rip one off the wall. Then he thought Billy and Bobby were coming to live here, but couldn't explain why. I'm worried, has anyone else noticed strange, aggressive behavior? Reply, I think I'll go with this, but on a call. I want to hear a response in real time. My dad has normalized triangulation a bit too much in this family for my comfort. Commenter, how old is your dad? Could he be having a sort of mental episode that he thinks your nephews are supposed to move in with you? Barring that, I'd ask your brother, hey, do you have any idea why dad would say this? Is something going on? Reply, he's in his 70s but he's still sharp enough to be working. I asked my other brother, nebulously without mentioning the reason why, who works with my dad every day if he'd noticed any decline and he said dad seems sharp as ever in their work environment. It's pretty mentally demanding work so I think it would be evident there. I'll also note though, my dad rejected an OCD diagnosis when he was in therapy after my parents' divorce. So he's not without any history of mental illness, not sure if that would cause this behavior though. Commenter, if this is a new development, it may be a UTI. The symptoms of an undiagnosed UTI can mimic early-stage dementia. And UTIs can have no physical symptoms, like burning or pain during urination, in the early stages. Look up silent UTIs. Reply, oh shit. Dad has gotten several UTIs before. Just Googled it and I had no clue that they could be silent or that they could impact cognition. Commenter, is your dad okay with your and your husband's disabilities? It sounds ableist, like he was trying to remove the reminder of your disability and then came up with a nonsensical excuse after the fact. Reply, my dad is in utter denial that I'm disabled. He only briefly accepted when my symptoms were severe and I couldn't work, but after I started my own business he's basically just been totally averse to the idea that I need to manage my symptoms and thinks I'm being dramatic. People ask several questions about the stalker OOP mentioned in one of the comments. It's okay. She's someone I used to be friends with and honestly it's my bad because I hung in there even when I realized she was becoming mentally unstable. She became fixated on my husband when he and I began dating and I became the enemy in her eyes. On if dad takes the stalking seriously. No, he does actually take her seriously. This woman has stalked him too and done property damage to his house. Update. I talked to my brother on the phone about the situation and he expressed that he had absolutely no idea why our father would imply that Billy and Bobby would need to move in with me at any point. He seemed genuinely surprised and to have no clue what the hell dad was talking about. He claims to have absolutely never expressed anything like that to our dad. I believe him. I asked him if there was any possible reason at all that Dad would think that I'd need to take in my nephews. Like, is there some problem Dad thinks he is pre-solving without consulting either of us? Is there an illness or impending divorce or anything I don't know about? My brother assured me that there's nothing like that going on and that, as I assumed, I, of course, wouldn't even be near the top of the list of permanent caregivers even if something was going on, because he knows I run 2 businesses out of my house and also just am not up for taking his kids in unless I am the absolute last safe resort. Both of us are in agreement, as is our other oldest brother, that Dad generally doesn't seem to have any other signs that we've noticed of declining cognitive function, like at all. But since this was such a strange outburst, we're still concerned that this is just the earliest sign. My brother, Billy and Bobby's dad, is going to talk to our dad about it ASAP and see what he says or what explanation he can give, then we'll go from there. The issue that we're both aware of is that my dad, while a loving father and good man to many, is a bit of a liar and a lot of a manipulator. He has a lot of signs of OCD and gets fixated on things, then tries to manipulate to get his way with his fixation. He means well, but he has been known to be full of shit and to have his own strange agendas that don't have much to do with anyone else's wants or needs. So unfortunately my brother and I, and my brother has volunteered to go first LOL, are going to have to confront him by essentially saying, Dad, it's really important that you're honest about whether you are confused or intentionally lying, triangulating, manipulating, because that's the difference between us freaking out about your health versus us just understanding that sometimes you lie to push your agenda but your brain is fine. Thank you to everyone who gave me feedback here. You've all been so sweet and supportive except that one guy who for some reason was dead convinced that I didn't pay for my own home and commented several times and med me about it. I did pay for my home, and it's solely in my name, you weirdo. I'll keep y'all updated on what my brother and I figure out going forward. Stories number 18. Aita for expecting to get what I had asked for my 30th birthday. It was my 30th birthday last month. Prior to this, my girlfriend asked me what I wanted from her and I said I'd like a small get-together of just a few close family and friends. There's a bar near us that lets you book the place out for free if you have at least 15 people, as it's a small place, so I mentioned possibly going there. My birthday came and I got nothing like that. I got a card and a couple of little gifts, 2 gift cards and a book, from my GF, but no gathering or any sort of celebration. I was upset at this and my girlfriend asked me why I was upset and I explained it to her. She said it would have been a hassle trying to get everyone together and would have took a lot of work to organize. I told her she knew how much it would have meant to me and that she literally asked what I wanted from her and then chose to ignore it. I said it hurts hearing her say I'm basically not worth the effort. She said I should have done it myself then, but I pointed out you don't organize your own birthday party and she is the one who asked me what I wanted from her. She said I was trying to guilt trip her, but I told her I was just expressing how I felt about it. She said I was being too unfair and that I should be happy with what I got. I told her she doesn't get to tell me when I can and can't be upset and that it obviously hurts knowing your partner doesn't care enough to even try to organize what I wanted for my birthday. She again said I was guilt tripping her and deliberately trying to make her feel bad. Aita for expressing my upset that she'd ignored what I'd asked from her for my birthday. Stories number 19. My 24F, husband, 23M, faked fainting after I gave birth. My husband and I have been together for 5 years. I want to start by saying that, despite his quirks, my husband is genuinely sweet and hardworking. I truly believe he loves me deeply, tries his best, and has always dreamed of being a husband and father. That's why this whole situation has left me confused and conflicted. We got pregnant a bit sooner than expected, though it wasn't entirely unplanned. In the first trimester I was lucky to avoid nausea, but the fatigue hit me hard, especially during my final university exams. I had to nap for 1 to 2 hours every afternoon just to function. At the time, we didn't know that this kind of exhaustion was a normal pregnancy symptom, and I was so focused on school that I didn't think much of it. Meanwhile, my husband quietly started resenting me. He thought I was being lazy because I wasn't keeping up with the housework, which, except for dishes, was mostly my responsibility. Thankfully, a friend asked if I'd been hit by the tiredness and explained that it's important I rest. He seemed to understand, but I guess it bugs me that faced with his wife being utterly exhausted, his first reaction was to think of me as lazy and be annoyed rather than concerned. Throughout the rest of my pregnancy, his attitude often felt off. He would get annoyed by what I thought were small requests, like bringing me water before bed, and complained about the size of my pregnancy pillow. While he always apologized later on if I let myself get sad about it, I felt like there was something he wasn't saying. Friends told me to enjoy the pregnancy pampering, but I didn't experience any of that. He treated me the same as before and seemed irritated when I couldn't keep up. Despite everything, I had a fairly easy pregnancy physically, and emotionally I responded very well to the crazy levels of estrogen, making me quite happy and hopeful. I stayed upbeat and tried to be as pleasant and positive as possible. During this time, he started getting really into these men's experiences during pregnancy podcasts and would vent about how no one considers what fathers go through, which I sympathized with. Then came the birth. After a long and sleepless labor, I needed an emergency C-section. I gave birth around midnight, and since partners couldn't stay overnight, he went home. I stayed awake with our newborn for a fourth night in a row. When he returned the next morning, he told me he had fainted on the way home, showing me how dirty his jacket was after falling. I was concerned, but I was so depleted I could barely process it. During our hospital stay, he brought food and held the baby while I slept, but his attitude still felt annoyed. I chalked it up to stress. Then came the newborn phase. Our son was colicky, I was exhausted, and we argued constantly. I couldn't be my usual sweet self, and I desperately needed emotional support. He, on the other hand, seemed to want sympathy too. At one point, it had been 5 days since the baby had a bath and he inquired of me annoyed. I didn't turn on my filter and said, "Why don't you give him a bath then?" He responded with that he didn't know how and was upset. I told him to Google it. He felt overwhelmed working 3 to 4 hours a day and microwaving meals twice daily, so researching baby baths was apparently too much. I ended up taking our baby to all his appointments alone because my husband looked so irritated when tired that nurses started asking questions. I could say a lot more, but here's my main concern. Recently, we revisited the topic of my pregnancy and our son's birth. I told him I felt unsupported during that time. That's when he confessed that he lied about fainting after the birth so I would feel bad for him. He apparently only slipped on the ice. He felt ignored and unimportant during the pregnancy. Every time he talked to friends, they told him to focus on supporting me, and he started to feel invisible. While I understand the desire to feel seen, to lie about something like this when I truly needed support feels deeply hurtful. I explained that being a supportive partner is not meaningless, it's actually a vital, powerful role. He was remorseful, but I don't know if this is expecting too much from him. Things are better between us today, but honestly, I don't think I want him with me the next time I give birth. I feel like it would be easier to mentally prepare for doing it alone than to split my emotional focus between giving birth, the baby, and managing his feelings again. TLDR, my husband lied about fainting after I gave birth to our son. I feel unsupported, but I am scared I am putting too much pressure on him. How do we move forward from this? Stories number 20. AITA, my parents are forcing me to pay for my brother's grad school using money they never told me about. I've, 30F, been financially independent since graduating college. I worked practically full-time while studying, recently paid off my student loans on my own, and just started saving to buy a home. I didn't apply to grad school because I couldn't afford it, and my parents made it pretty clear growing up that we needed to stand on our own after high school. My brother, 22M, is honestly a genius. He worked really hard in school, got a full academic ride to a great state school, and graduated with honors. I'm so proud of him. The problem now is he recently got into an extremely prestigious grad program that would open a lot of doors for him. He was hoping for scholarships or a paid internship to cover most of it, but it's not enough. Now he's facing tuition and housing costs in one of the most expensive cities in the country. My parents asked if I could help out and suggested I contribute around $15,000 to get him through the first year. They'd match it, and he'd take loans for the rest. I said no. I've been working for over a decade on my own goals, and I'm just now starting to save for a house. I don't feel comfortable putting that on hold, especially when I had to turn down opportunities because there was no help available to me. During the conversation, my mom got frustrated and said they'd be using my other fund to help him instead. I asked what she meant, and she said they had set aside about $25,000 for me back when I was in college, meant to be used for a future wedding. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea this fund existed. I asked why I wasn't told about it when I was considering grad school, or now while I'm saving for a home. She said it was always intended for a wedding, not school or property, and since I haven't needed it, I'm not engaged or in a relationship, they decided to give it to my brother because he has a more immediate need. I'm not going to lie, I was pissed. I never got a chance to make a case for how I could have used that money, and now it's just being handed over to someone else. I told them I felt hurt and left out. My mom said I was being unfair, and that the money was never promised, and if I didn't want it for a wedding, then it made sense to use it for something meaningful. My brother told me he didn't know about the wedding fund either, and he understands why I'd be upset, but said he didn't ask for it. He just wants to go to school and thought we were all trying to support each other. I know my brother worked hard and isn't trying to take anything from me. But I can't help feeling like my parents are punishing me for being practical. Stories number 21. My 21F boyfriend, 22M, is going through maybe the worst thing a person can go through. How can I help him? About 2 weeks ago my boyfriend was on a boys' trip for a friend's 21st birthday and he got separated from the group. He decided to walk back to their Airbnb alone and was attacked by two guys on the street. He was drunk, they both had weapons, and I won't even type what happened. He didn't want his parents to know, so I ended up flying to be with him through the legal and medical processes and to bring him home. His friends also had no idea what to do and he refused to talk to anyone. He still isn't talking much at all. He won't talk to his family or friends. His family doesn't even know. They are not aligned politically and morally, so they have been in limited contact. I think they would make the situation even harder on him. But because of this I have no one with real authority who could make him get help. I'm needing to tell people he's even alive because he has gone quiet. I'm terrified that he has no help processing this and that he will do something serious. He's the love of my life, but this is so far above my knowledge. Where do I begin? Anyone who has been through anything similar have any advice? I'm so desperate I can't even believe I'm asking here, but I have no one I can talk to without him hating me. Edit. I know women are always taught to look after our friends and not let them wander off alone. I want men to remember to look after their friends too, please. Edit 2. I did not expect this level of support and help. Every different perspective is helping more than I can really express. I've felt alone in this for weeks and today it has been little bit less. Thank you so much with all of my heart. Stories number 22. Just a broken and tired father. As I sit here crying, lost, and afraid I don't know how this will go, but I am going to attempt to vent and let out my anger and frustrations. In September of 2023, my wife and I found out that we were pregnant with our third child. We were excited as this would be the one that completed our family. In November of 2023 on Thanksgiving Day I felt very sick and we ended up going to the ER, which I don't ever go to because I work as a firefighter paramedic and only typically go if it's a true emergency. I just progressively got worse and began having trouble breathing, and so we went. My wife, 2 kids, aged 3 and 4 at the time, and I all tested positive for influenza A. We went home and fought through it for 3 to 4 days. On the 5th day my wife woke me up screaming and I looked over and the entire bed was covered in blood. We went straight to the ER and were told that she had a hematoma on her placenta and that it would heal on its own and not to worry. Fast forward 3 months and a ton of doctor appointments for the non-stop bleeding, and it finally came up that my wife had a marginal placental separation that could lead to a placenta abruption. In February 2024, at just 21 weeks pregnant, my wife's water broke and she was admitted to the hospital and eventually gave birth via cesarean section at 22 weeks and 2 days. My baby boy weighed 1 pound 4 ounces at birth and was only 11.34 inches long. We spent 176 days in the NICU and had a relatively easy stay considering the hurdles he had to go through. We eventually went home with a feeding tube, some oxygen and nebulizer. In January of 2025, my son got sick with human metapneumovirus and RSV. We have been in the hospital now for 105 days and I feel like I failed my son. I feel like I am slowly watching my son die. It is the most gut-wrenching feeling I have ever experienced. My family's life revolves around going to the hospital daily. I am fortunate to have enough passive income to sustain our lives, but I have not worked in the past 14 months. My wife has not worked in the past 18 months. We have had to move to a home closer to the hospital because our home is 2 hours from the hospital. I now have my home 2 hours away and rent a house that is 20 minutes from the hospital. My son has a tracheostomy and is on a ventilator. He has a Broviac catheter in his chest to have permanent access to his vascular system. He has a GJ tube in his belly to give feeds and oral medications. My wife's life revolves around being bedside with our baby. I take care of the other 2 kids. Our entire relationship revolves around research on our son, talking to doctors daily, trying to come up with a plan to make some form of progress. Right now my son lives on a ventilator. He is asleep most of the days and nights because of sedation. He has suffered multiple broken bones from osteoporosis due to heavy steroid use. Prior to going to the hospital my son was a ball of joy. He smiled, laughed, he never cried and was the most content baby that I have ever been around. Now he barely smiles. He does when we sit there and talk with him, but no random smiles or laughs. We cannot even hold our son. I don't care what I expect, after all he was born at 22 weeks, but this is not what I expected. I can't sleep. I cry nightly and get random bouts of depression. I know what it feels like. I suffered from severe PTSD from the military and fought for years to get to a better mental state. I feel myself slipping into the darkness again and I don't think there is a fix for this one. I don't know if my son will ever leave the hospital. I am normally a very optimistic person, and having worked EMS I have seen miracles, and now I sit on my knees begging the Lord to make this right. I'm just lost and scared that if my son does go it will destroy me and my wife. For now I just bury my feelings because if I break then my family breaks. I'm the patriarch of our family and I know that if I stay strong so will they. It's just so damn hard sometimes. Sorry for the dragged on post, just needed to get this off my chest. Baby, kids, dad, family at Christmas. Comments. Reply, I never in a million years expected this post to gather so much attention. I have been swamped with the amount of comments and messages of support and love from this community. I keep getting asked about how people can help and if we have a GoFundMe. I don't want anyone to feel obligated to donate, but I figured I would leave the information here for those that wanted to. Commenter 2. Again, I truly appreciate all of you. Thank you for helping me find the light. Commenter 3. Hang in there brother, I was born at 2 pounds and dropped down to 1 pound 10 ounces a month after I was born. Your son hasn't stopped fighting yet, Godspeed. Commenter 4. Same here. Born at 2 pounds 8 ounces and went down to 1 pound 6 ounces. First 5 months were in an incubator in a NICU. Here I am. You've got a lil warrior, Godspeed. Commenter 5. It's okay for you to have a moment to yourself daily and just cry and be angry. Allow yourself to do that. Update. Good afternoon everyone. My last post blew up and went viral. I did not intend for that to happen, I just came here to vent and get some stuff off my chest. I am beyond grateful for the amount of people who took the time to view, comment, message me, and especially those who took the time to read my son's full story on our crowdfunding site. I did not intend to upset anyone and I have tried to keep up with reading all the comments that were on my original post. I decided to take the time to update everyone here with a new post. I cannot edit my other post due to it having images. I went to my appointment today and everything went very well. I also was able to sit down with my pastor as a family and we spoke for a while. My family and especially my state of mind is in a much better place thanks to all of the heartwarming responses from many of you. My son is also doing well. We had some hiccups shortly after making my original post that lead to Bentley needing 100% oxygen for around 24 to 30 hours because of a lung collapse, but he was able to recover and is doing better now. I will continue to edit this post so that everyone can get updates. I also update our GoFundMe and Facebook regularly, if you would prefer to follow those instead. I also want everyone to know that my DMs are always open if you ever want an update. I am as transparent as they come and if I can answer any questions I will. Thank you again everyone. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Comments. Commenter 1. I thought of you today and was hoping there was an update. I'm so grateful your son is doing well and am so happy you were able to find more support. Rooting for you and your family and keeping y'all in my heart. Reply, I appreciate it. He is doing better. He actually is having surgery tomorrow morning for his eyes because he is doing well enough to be able to undergo it now. Hoping for a good outcome with the surgery. Commenter 2. Hey man, how did the surgery go? Hoping all is well. Reply, hey man, he tolerated the surgery well, but the outcome was worse than what we anticipated. Once the surgeon was able to get the contrast dye in the eyes and was able to see it under imaging, she stated it was much worse in both eyes than she could have anticipated. She did a lot of lasering, 2 hours worth, and 2 new injections, 1 in each eye. She said that she also did an eye exam for glasses while she was there and that he is extremely nearsighted, he can only see maybe 2 to 5 inches in from of his face. She said that the nearsightedness can be somewhat corrected with glasses, so we will be buying those this week. She said that even with the amount of laser and the injections that she said he will eventually become totally blind, it is just a matter of time. She said that she has only seen one similar case with a disease as bad as his and that child unfortunately did not live through his hospital stay. We also have a world-leading expert from Miami that specializes in ROP retinopathy of prematurity and our surgeon's mentor on his case, and she agrees with what our surgeon has stated. There is nothing further that they can do to protect the eyes and that they will continue to monitor from here on out. Update. A few weeks ago I had posted in here for help with my son who is in the hospital PICU. I just wanted to give an update since it has been a while since I last updated. Bentley's lungs have began the healing process and they have been able to wean a bunch of his medications. He is on a maintenance dose of steroids now and is on very low levels of sedation, just to help with some pain. His zoledronic acid infusions have began to help his bones absorb the calcium they need to get stronger. He is still on a ventilator but his settings are beginning to look better. We were told we have at least another 3 to 5 months because of how weak he has become while in and out of sedation and paralytics during his time fighting against his virus. Bentley had to have surgery last week for his eyes, due to the retinopathy of prematurity recurring in his right eye and getting worse in his left eye. During the procedure the surgeon placed dye contrast and took images for another world-leading specialist in ROP out of Miami. It was determined that Bentley's ROP is one of the worst cases that either surgeon has seen in their careers. They did 3 hours of laser eye surgery to try to slow and stop the disease from being active. They both have told us that Bentley will eventually go blind, total blindness. They said they did as much as they could and even gave a new injection, Ilia, to try and help. They also did an eye exam and said that Bentley can see focused images at about 2 to 5 inches from his face right now and wrote a prescription for glasses. Overall, Bentley's lungs are getting better, as are some of the systemic problems that occurred from trying to keep him alive during his fight. While he will be on many medications and a ventilator for some time moving forward, we are grateful that he won his fight against the virus. As with all fights, there are scars that we carry from them, and one of the lasting scars from Bentley's recent bout with a virus will be his eyes. We don't know when, but we know he will be blind at some point in his life. This news was hard at first and we, Mom and I, both cried over this news. But we know he will get through this and so shall we. We still have 3 to 5 months of physical and occupational therapy to try and get Bentley stronger and at a state of care that is manageable at home. Thank you everyone for the continued love and support you all have graciously shown to my family and I. Without you all we would not be able to be there for our son the way we have been able to. Bentley with Mum. Bentley, kids with Chewbacca. Son, daughter. Comments. Commenter 1. I am so happy for you, man. Wishing Bentley a healthy and long life. Reply, I appreciate it, brother. Commenter 2. Sending you and your family love and prayers. I cannot imagine how difficult and draining this must be. Be strong for your family, but don't hesitate to take some time off for yourself to be sad and cry a little. I am crying for you, and I am a very rough-looking wrestler. It's okay. We need to cry too sometimes. Then we go and be strong for our families. Peace. Commenter 3. Hey, I remember your last post. I'm really glad Bentley is doing better. Do you know when he's going to go blind, like what age? Maybe you could create a bucket list for him of stuff to experience before he goes blind, like visit some cool places like national parks and stuff if you can. Reply, we have no idea. The surgeon said it's not a matter of if but when, and that when cannot be defined right now. We will definitely do as much as possible while we can. Stories number 23. AITA for telling my sister not to announce her pregnancy at my wedding because I was going to announce mine, but she did it anyway. Hi again, Reddit. First of all, thank you for the overwhelming support and validation, it really helped me feel a lot less crazy. So, a few people asked for an update, and well, things got petty. I'll admit it. I'm not proud of all of it, but I'm also not sorry. After the wedding drama, my relationship with my sister was icy at best. She kept acting like I was just being hormonal and selfish, and every time we spoke, she somehow turned herself into the victim. I finally decided if she thought I was selfish and dramatic, I might as well lean in just a little. A month later, my husband and I had a gender reveal party, low-key, just family and a few close friends. We did not invite my sister. She found out through our cousin's Instagram post and texted me something snarky like, wow, guess I'm not family now. I replied, well, I didn't want to risk you announcing something again and stealing the spotlight. Fair, right? But the real revenge came at our baby shower. I had custom cookies made that said, we waited our turn. One of the decorations was a sign that said, one special day deserves its own celebration. A few people laughed, a few looked uncomfortable, but I saw my sister read the cookie and go very quiet. She asked if the cookie was about her. I told her, if the shoe fits, and walked away. Now she's telling the family I'm the one being dramatic and petty. Ironic, no, but honestly, I don't care. I didn't ruin her wedding. She ruined mine. She can sit with that for a while. Also, my baby is due a week before hers. Guess who's going to be very publicly posting baby pics right as she's going into labor? Not saying I'll be timing it, but I'm not saying that either. Stories number 24. AITA for refusing to split the cost of a rental car and then getting cut out of the trip I planned. About a week ago, my brother's friend, let's call him Adam, mentioned he was going on a business trip to a big city, Metroville. He made it clear it wasn't a vacation and said he didn't want anyone tagging along. On New Year's, I went to Metroville with some friends. My brother, Eli, couldn't come because of work, though I encouraged him to take a break. Later, I noticed he seemed interested in the city when Adam brought it up again, so I decided to plan another trip, this time including Eli. He was excited, took time off, and asked if he could bring a couple of friends. I agreed, and we started planning. I was going to drive us in my car. We had dates and hotels set. Adam wasn't part of the plan at all. Out of nowhere, Eli's other friend Marcus told me that Adam was coming and needed a ride. My car didn't have space, and instead of splitting rides, they suggested we rent a larger car and split the cost, about $1,000 for 5 days, just to make room for Adam, who wasn't even vacationing with us. I said no. I didn't think it was fair to take on that extra cost just to accommodate someone who wasn't part of our group. I made that clear. The next day, I found out there was a group chat I wasn't even in. Then Marcus messaged me, calling me immature, and Eli texted me seconds later asking if I was okay with not going. So I didn't back out, I got pushed out of the trip I planned. I'm pretty upset, especially since my own brother was part of it. I didn't make it about money or control, I just didn't want to foot the bill for someone else's business trip. AITA for refusing to split the rental and then getting excluded from the trip I organized. Stories number 25. AITA for expecting my dad to make his wife leave me alone and telling her I don't care that he was a bad husband to her. God, this is fucking annoying. My parents have been divorced for a really long time now. Probably like 15 years now. I'm 17 so I don't remember them being together. They divorced because dad cheated with the woman he's married to, Sarah. It's always been obvious my dad missed my mom and regretted breaking up their marriage. But he never regretted it enough to end everything with Sarah and just focus on being a good dad. Instead he married Sarah eventually, but she was always second best. I never liked Sarah because she was always open about hating my mom and I didn't like that. She'd say in front of me that mom had let herself go since having me, that she was never that pretty from the photos she saw and didn't get why he ever liked her. She'd say mom was a bad mother because my hair was a mess, my hair's so difficult to manage and it's really wavy curly, and because I wasn't dressed in really fashionable clothes. She'd lash out at my dad's relatives for asking me about mom. She even called my mom a SL dumb sent right in front of me when I was 9, even with all that my dad would talk about mom a lot and he'd make excuses to be around her. He'd show up to my extracurriculars and spend more time focused on mom than me. He sent my mom birthday gifts every year but gave nothing to Sarah. He missed their anniversary every year. Sarah was in the hospital twice since they got married, once for her appendix and another was an ulcer or something, and he didn't visit her but my dad tried to see my mom when she had knee surgery. He didn't care when I didn't tell Sarah where I was going and just left his house to do stuff. She'd get upset and talk about the lack of respect. Which I don't respect her. Dad never cared. I knew he treated her like shit. I could see it was mom he wanted and he was with her because once he cheated there was no coming back from it. But Sarah clung on for so long. Now their marriage is in deep shit and Sarah's all about trying to force a relationship with me that isn't there. She's tried to get me to say I want a relationship with her if she and my dad divorce. Or she's told me about her hurt feelings and cried when I shrugged and left her to talk to herself about it. I stopped going to my dad's because of it and I ignore her calls, then I muted her and later blocked Sarah. But she tried to pick me up from school to hang out and she showed up at my job a few times wanting to walk me home and stuff. I always turned her down and she'd get upset, so I went to my dad's house the other night and told him I wanted him to make Sarah leave me alone. I told him I was so tired of her acting like I give a shit about her. And I told Sarah that I don't care that dad was a bad husband to her and that she's second best. I said I always saw that and I never cared about her, so stop burdening me with her feelings and leave me alone regardless of what she decides. Yesterday my dad was going crazy about it all. He told me my expectations were too high and he bitched about Sarah wanting marriage counseling. He said it was my fault because of all the stuff I said. I know Sarah's an adult and my dad can't control her, so maybe it was wrong for me to expect him to. Might have been wrong to say what I did to Sarah too. Aita. Stories number 26. AIO for leaving my boyfriend at a restaurant after he told the waitress I was just the salad girl. I have been dating my boyfriend for almost a year. For the most part, things have been okay, but he has a sarcastic sense of humor that sometimes makes me feel small. I'm pretty quiet, I don't eat meat, just a personal preference, not a full-on vegan or anything, and I guess I can be a bit shy in social settings. Anyway, last weekend we went out to dinner with a few of his coworkers. I'd never met them before, and I was already nervous. When the waitress came to take our orders, everyone was getting steaks or burgers, and I just asked for a salad. That's when my boyfriend laughed and said, "Don't mind her, she's just the salad girl. Doesn't eat real food." His coworkers laughed. One even said something like, "Better get used to rabbit food if you're staying with him." I laughed awkwardly but felt humiliated. I already get comments from my family about my eating habits, and the fact that he joined in and in front of strangers really hurt. When the waitress walked away, I told him quietly that what he said wasn't okay. He brushed it off and said I was being sensitive and to not embarrass him in front of his friends. So I stood up, said, "Enjoy your real food," and left. I took the bus home. He texted me non-stop that night saying I overreacted, that I made him look bad, and that I embarrassed him. His friends apparently asked what was wrong with me. Now I'm second-guessing myself. I didn't yell or cause a scene. I just left because I felt small and disrespected. But was that an overreaction? Stories number 27. Asked to buy a specific dress for wedding party photos, not actually in the wedding. My husband's second cousin is getting married this summer. It's a destination wedding and we're already spending $5K to attend this wedding. I've met this cousin once, last year, and my husband isn't super close with her. Invitations were sent out in January, but no dress code. I assumed cocktail, and bought a nice dress. Last week we received an email that says, wedding party dress code. It said women are to buy a dress in a specific color off Birdie Gray and men are supposed to get a specific color suit. We have not talked to the bride or groom since last year, no communication from them other than invite, save the date, dress code card. To clarify, not once were we asked to be a bridesmaid or groomsman or anything of the sorts. My husband reached out to the bride's mom to see what was going on and she talked to her daughter and then let us know that the bride had sent a few of US wedding party dress code cards so we could have photos together, but we aren't actually in the wedding or getting ready with the bride or anything as the couple only has a best man and maid of honor. I feel like we're being used for photo ops, so told the bride that unfortunately, I already had a dress but was looking forward to celebrating her, and her response was to ask if I could still order the dress and change into the dress I have after photos. Edit, oh my goodness, didn't think I'd get these many responses, but wow. To answer people's questions, unfortunately flights are non-refundable, there were some extra costs for guests and this dress code thing that I didn't know about until very recently, which bumped the budget up. We would have said no if we knew it was going to be this much from the beginning. Ultimately, the reason we were okay with going to begin with is because my husband comes from a large family spread all over the world and there are a few older or sick family members that we haven't seen in a while that we would love to see. I also told the bride, I don't feel comfortable changing dresses but that I can stay out of the photos, and never heard back, so that's the end of that. Stories number 28. I totally get why there are women-only chess tournaments. I started learning to play chess at the start of the year. Full disclosure, I'm shit at it. So shit that I would never inflict my poor playing on actual people, so I played against bots on a big chess website. Let me tell you, many male beginners have no such qualms. One day I accidentally clicked on playing against a person and I felt terrible at first but I actually did okay. Something weird happened though, as soon as I started getting ahead, they quit. Then it started. I get matched with what mostly appears to be men in their 20s to 40s. I know this because they've added a profile pic, sometimes shirtless. On a chess website, it goes one of three ways 95% of the time. On move 2, they hurl their queen across the board where it can be captured almost immediately by one of the many pieces that are covering that square, or will be in a couple of moves. You catch their queen and they quit immediately. They're a bit more subtle about it, and wait a few moves and I miss that it's coming. Then they'll bounce around catching pieces until I catch their queen, then they quit anyway. They play pretty normally until it's clear you won't be beaten in a few moves, then they quit. They lose points for quitting and often it's games they would have won. But if they can't intimidate me into quitting or losing early, they take the hit. To me the fun in chess isn't just immediately trading pieces but when both sides are trapped from all angles and need to think of a way out. Not to these guys apparently. These dudes are bad at chess in a different way, although probably also the same way as they only know how to win if the person they're playing is completely unaware of how to play. This morning I played a lovely game against another woman, it was so much fun. Then I had 5 more games against the dudes pulling the above and gave up. Stories number 29. If I'm not a full-time employee, I went to a for-profit film photography school and was a student worker, PT, in the equipment checkout, think camera, audio, lighting, etc., rental, department. My primary job was repairing damaged equipment, and I was good at it. One of the best managers I have ever had knew I was about to drop out of school in my last year because I couldn't afford it anymore, so she offered me a promotion to full-time, which would allow me to take my final 6 classes at no cost, though I'd be working full-time. When she approved my promotion, which included my pay rate doubling, I started working full-time. After a few days, she left for a 3-week cruise, a family vacation she had been preparing over a year for. With her on PTO were now only 2 foot employees in the department. The rest were PT student workers, and none of them did repair work. I'd been working FT for 2 weeks, and she had been on PTO for 1, when paychecks came out. Mine was 1/2 of what I was expecting. They had not raised my pay rate. I went to HR on my lunch break to discuss, and HR was next to useless. I'm sorry, but your promotion has not been approved yet. These things take time. It might go through at the end of the month, 2 more weeks. This is not personal, it's just the regulations. I didn't get mad. I didn't yell. I simply told the HR rep that I needed to think about it. So I walked around the rest of my break and thought, cue malicious compliance. After that, I went back to HR. And told them this. For the past 2 weeks, I have been working FT, and repairing equipment at the level of a trained technician. As you have stated, my full-time position is not yet authorized, and as such I can only work a maximum of 24 hours per week. It's Wednesday afternoon, and I have maxed out my hours for the week. I'll be going home now. I have a dog to walk and a pool to swim in. I was house sitting for my manager. Did I say that she was awesome? I'm not quitting. I'll be back for my regular shift next Monday, and I will be working 24 hours a week, at the level of a student worker. I'm sure the pile of broken gear will still be there waiting for me. Please understand, there is nothing personal about this. I'm simply following the employee regulations. At that point I left the campus and drove to the house, walked the dog, and had a swim. Just before 5 p.m. I got a call. Matt, can you come in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.? We have some papers for you to fill out to finalize your promotion. Long story short, payroll refused to put through a promotion to FT that my manager had approved. I refused to work FT until my promotion was approved. My manager loved hearing it from HR when she got back. Edit. Seems like a common question is, did I get the back pay? Sadly, the answer is no, because the official promotion paperwork, contracts, employee handbook, etc., had not been finalized and approved. Wink with a frown. But I did end up staying there for around 10 more years. Stories number 30. AITA for getting my coworker fired after he, sexually, asked if I am legal. I, 19F, am interning at this company and I introduced myself to Mark, late 20s, who was working here on a completely different team. He said I looked cute and he complimented my outfit and I just brushed it off as a harmless comment. Then he asked me if I wanted to chill with him over lunch, and suggested we go to his apartment saying it would be private for just us. I didn't want to, and I responded that I was going to eat lunch at the office, and I said that means he must live nearby, right, and asked where. He told me he lives in a small studio apartment that is in walking distance and paused and then asked me, are you even legal? Like asking about my age, like if I went to his place would it be legal for him to fuck me, and I just froze and was shocked. Like WTF. I didn't respond and he was just looking at me and he eventually backtracked and said he didn't actually mean to say that, and I was so uncomfortable. I ended up reporting him to our and he was put on review and ended up being fired. I'm still sort of processing this. Stories number 31. To fool by wearing my AirPods to a job interview and forgetting they had a mic. This happened a couple days ago and I'm still cringing thinking about it. I had a Zoom interview for a remote position. It was full-time, had benefits, seemed like a solid opportunity, so I actually took the time to prepare. Had my notes, practiced my answers, even changed into a decent shirt. Pajama pants still made the cut though. So I'm sitting there waiting for the host to join and I've got my AirPods in like always. Didn't even think twice. Zoom said, waiting for host, so I figured I had a minute to just relax. And for some reason I started talking to myself out loud. Not loud, just kind of mumbling pep talk stuff like, okay, just be normal. You got this. Don't ramble. Smile. Pretend like you have it together. Then I muttered, you're not a mess. You just look like one right now. And that's when I heard it. Hey. We can hear you, by the way. No rush though. Turns out the interviewer had joined silently and Zoom defaulted to my AirPods mic, so I had been broadcasting my little self-deprecating pep talk straight into the meeting. I froze. Couldn't even think of a recovery. Just awkwardly laughed, turned on my camera, and tried to power through like nothing happened. Interview went okay, I think. But now the HR guy definitely knows I'm running mostly on vibes and caffeine. TLDR forgot my AirPods had a mic during a Zoom interview and accidentally gave the recruiter a live feed of my pre-interview meltdown. Stories number 32. The Home Depot next to my house has an anti-homeless alarm that is driving me crazy. Across from my house is a shopping complex with a Home Depot. They recently installed an alarm that beeps at a low level constantly. One of the security guards says it is to ward away homeless people from sleeping nearby. It is from the store, not the complex, the store manager said so. Sometimes it was on even during the day. You can't hear it in the store because the wall block it. The problem is my house is really close to it and it is driving me crazy when I have my window open in the summer. I talked to them and they noted my complaint and said it was up to corporate. They did stop for a week or so, but it has started up again. I have recorded video of it every night it is on to have proof. I'm looking for ideas to get them to stop this alarm. It is driving me crazy. I'm going to call Home Depot corporate and try to talk to the regional manager and maybe end it amicably. And I plan to talk to the city councilor and make a police report. I have considered going to a lawyer and asking them send a cease and desist letter. Any other ideas that can help my case without paying for a lawyer to sue them? Stories number 33. Aita for telling my dad's new wife why he's actually with her after she called my mom unstable. A few years ago my 16M parents divorced. I was pretty much kept in the dark about the reason until fairly recently when my mom told me. All I knew at the time is it came out of nowhere. Since then I've gone back and forth between my mom's house and my dad's. About a year ago my dad married his new wife and I can't stand her. She acts like she's better than everyone, treats my dad like a lapdog, micromanages everything I do, and I could go on and on with reasons. Earlier my mom called my dad about something, and after he hung up I overheard my stepmom talking about my mom calling her a nag and unstable. I think what made me even angrier was my dad just letting it slide. I got angry and told her she'd be unstable too, which my mom isn't, if she found out her husband was sleeping with other men behind her back, and that the only reason my dad is with her is because my mom threw him out and he barely had money of his own since he mooched off of my mom's the entire time. My dad's wife obviously wanted me out of the house, so I packed up while they argued and went back to my mom's. My dad has been texting me saying I've lost my mind and that I have no idea what I've done, that I had no right to make those accusations and things like that. I'm not even sure why his wife was so mad, since I didn't even have physical proof looking back at it. It was probably immature for me to have an outburst like that, but Aita posted on my main originally but took it down after a few seconds since I feel more comfortable with a throwaway account. Stories number 34. Neighbors ditched us, so I ruined their party. In a previous home, we had become friends with our next door neighbors and the neighbors behind us. We often all ate dinner together, had parties, and just generally hung out. One day I saw a couple of our neighbors out having dinner together in the next door neighbor's yard. I didn't think much of it until it became a regular thing. Then, even though there was a chain link fence between our yards, the next door neighbor put up a high stockade fence to block the view. They never said a word about having a problem with us. I was like, WTF. After a while we listed our house because we were moving to another state. I had one of the best lawns on the block and worked to keep it looking good for showings. One day, the next door neighbors had a big party for the wife's graduation from nursing school. They had a lot of people over as well as a DJ outside. That's when I went to work. First, I mowed the lawn for a couple of hours, making sure I didn't miss any spots along that nice new high fence. They couldn't see me, but they sure could hear me. The weed whacker was even more grating for some reason. The DJ kept turning the music up, people were shouting to hear each other, and I kept revving the engine. To make matters worse for them, a friend who was a cop pulled up in his cruiser in front of our house just to say hi. They were turning the music down probably because they thought we called him. As soon as he left, they turned the music back up, I put more gas in the weed whacker, and we resumed where we had left off. Finally, they waved the white flag when the DJ started playing Why Can't We Be Friends, got on the mic and said, "Hey neighbor, come on over." I laughed and kept weed whacking. Got a great price for the house too. Edit. Before any more people ask why we didn't ask them about it, we heard from another neighbor that our next door neighbor's brother told his mom my side hustle was building and running adult websites. So his mom didn't want him to associate with us. He told the neighbor this but not us. So we knew why. Stories number 35. I haven't let my parents know about my savings account. Hi. I've been saving up for years now and my parents aren't aware of it. I even opened it through a different bank so there's no track of it whatsoever. Growing up, they weren't great with finances, like lots of debt, living paycheck to paycheck and always stressing about bills. They're good people who worked hard, but we suffered a lot financially. I've been working since I was 16 and have always been super careful with money. After college, I landed a decent job in tech and have been pretty aggressive about saving. Nothing crazy, but I've managed to put away about $65,000 over the last few years between my emergency fund and investments. Here's the thing, my parents have no idea. They think I'm just getting by like most people my age. Whenever money comes up, I just change the subject or downplay how I'm doing. Part of me feels guilty for hiding this, especially since they sometimes mention how they worry about me financially. But the other part remembers how whenever I had money growing up, they'd borrow it for bills or emergencies and rarely pay it back. Even in college when I got a small scholarship check, they convinced me to use it for family expenses. I don't blame them cause they were struggling, but I learned early that any money I had visible became family money. It was a very hard decision to make, but it too ended up being the better decision. Stories number 36. Don't want me start before 8 o'clock. Fine. Years ago I worked for this complete psycho at a semi-public service type place. Moody, arrogant, my first week there, she must have mentioned having a PhD doctorate. I'm a doctor at least half a dozen times, and the biggest goddamn snob I've ever met. We had flexible work hours, spread of hours between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m., signing on in 15-minute increments. If I had a really good run in traffic, sometimes I'd get there in time to sign on at 7:30 or 7:45. Well, psycho doctor didn't like that, and said I couldn't start before 8 o'clock, despite everyone else in the office being allowed to. I explained that sometimes if the traffic was good I got in earlier than that, but she wouldn't have it. Told me if I got in early, I could read through my work emails but I couldn't sign on before 8 o'clock, so basically she expected me to give 15 to 30 minutes free labor. Yeah, nah, screw that. So if I got in early, and the weather was nice, I'd sit outside, or if it wasn't, I'd sit at my desk and read my Kindle. Or play on my phone. And didn't switch my computer on until bang on 8 o'clock. Her boss came by early one morning wanting to collect something she'd left in the office for him, and of course the office wasn't open and she demanded to know where I was. I reminded her that I wasn't allowed to start before 8 o'clock, which I could tell royally pissed her off, but there was nothing she could do about it as I had the email trail to back me up. Small potatoes in terms of malicious compliance, but it made me feel good. Stories number 37. AITA for making my dad live with the consequences of choosing his stepson over me. My parents divorced when I, 19M, was 2. They shared custody of me, and while my dad was never a perfect parent, he was a pretty decent one. Our relationship was pretty strong. Then when I was 9 he remarried and our relationship changed. He has a stepson Tommy who's 3 years younger than me, and most of his time went on him after he remarried. It wasn't that my dad never spoke to me or looked at me again. But he broke every promise he made after he remarried. He prioritized the time he spent with Tommy and he never wanted to include me. Oh no. That wasn't possible. He said he didn't want to take away Tommy's chance to have a dad when he never had one before. And for that to work he needed to make the time to be his dad. The day my mom died, rather than be with me, he went ahead with his plans to take Tommy to play a father-son game of football. I was 13 and having my dad out having fun with his stepkid while my heart was breaking fucking wrecked me. He went with Tommy knowing my mom had died too. And my dad's wife accused me of being spoiled because I wanted to ruin Tommy's fun with my dad and wouldn't share him. There were times he had a work thing that meant he had less time in a week. A perfect example of that happening was the time I was winning an award and I asked Dad if he could take me out for cake and ice cream afterward, just the two of us, and he said yeah of course. 2 days later he had a plan to take Tommy to this all-day karate thing. My award thing was Thursday and the karate was on a Saturday, and my dad was told on Tuesday he needed to work more hours that week, and he told me on Wednesday that he only had time that week to spend with one of us and he was keeping his plans with Tommy. I'd already lost my mom, so I had to scramble and ask my grandparents if they could make it at the last minute. I detached emotionally from Dad before I even turned 16 and I just stopped believing him or expecting a relationship with him. After a few months I decided I would fade from his life once I was 18 and I started to plan my escape. I clashed with my dad's wife a lot in the last year because she wanted more time with Dad and her, and I refused to babysit Tommy for her. He was 14, so not like a small little kid, but she babied him a bunch and the fights between us got pretty nasty. I don't know when my dad started to want more time with me or why. From what I know he still spends a shit ton of time with Tommy, but he reached out to me and asked to meet up and I told him no. I didn't bullshit him or make any fake promises only to cancel on him. My dad wanted to know if I'd have time soon and I said no. But he didn't give up and he invited me a handful more times. Then he wanted to know why I didn't come home for Christmas and he asked for us to have a family dinner soon. Again I said no. He's planning a vacation with his wife and Tommy and he invited along. He said he'd pay and everything. I told him no yet again, and this time he made it a point to show up when I was visiting some of his family and he brought his wife and Tommy along. When they showed up I went to leave, but Dad stopped me and begged me to stay and he said he wanted to spend time with me. Tommy said he wanted to hang out with me too and he told his mom he wanted to go somewhere with me. I told them I was leaving and Dad asked me why I wouldn't spend time with him anymore. His wife told me I couldn't possibly walk away from my father and brother. I ignored her and told my dad it was the consequences of always choosing Tommy. I told him I wasn't here to play games and I wasn't ever going to forget what an awful father he turned into. Then I said he wasn't my family anymore and I left. He had it out with the relatives I was visiting and now his wife is furious at me. She said I'm being spiteful and these aren't consequences of Dad's actions, they're a child having a tantrum and wanting to punish people. She said it was most unfair to Tommy who feels like he lost a brother. I told her Tommy never had a brother and to leave me alone. Then I blocked her. My dad's been trying to talk to me like crazy too, but I muted him and ignore them now. Stories number 38. Aita for telling my dad that if he didn't shape up, my mom was going to leave him. Hello everyone. I posted this on Aita but figured I might as well post it over here too. I have never posted on Reddit before, so sorry if this goes against the guidelines or anything. For context, I am a 16-year-old girl and my dad is a 57-year-old man. I love my parents a lot, and I am so grateful for all the things they do to provide for me. However, me and my dad have always had a bit of a strange relationship. He is not very good at communicating, and sometimes it feels like I can't talk to him about anything. This does bother me, but the real issue in our house is that my mom does everything. Every day she makes dinner, does the dishes, laundry, etc. On top of this, she recently started remotely working full-time again, and she is currently going back to college to get her master's degree. I do everything I can to help her out, but I can only do so much. My dad works full-time, and that's it. He never does any chores or helps around the house at all. He does work a labor-heavy job, and I understand it's tiring, but he could at least give our dog a bath or make dinner for himself or something. Both me and my mom have said many times that we want him to help around the house, and he always says he will, but he never does anything. He did the dishes a couple times, but he didn't do it thoroughly enough and there was still food on them, so my mom had to rewash them. I've honestly gotten really tired of this, as it's been going on for years. Well, here is where I might be the asshole. This happened 3 days ago. My mom was in class that night, so she hadn't gotten an opportunity to do the laundry yet, and there was a basket of dirty clothes in my parents' room. My dad offhandedly remarked, "Gee, there sure are a lot of dirty clothes laying around." This made me really annoyed. I told him that he was a grown man and if he wanted clean clothes he could do a load of laundry himself. My dad looked surprised at this and told me to calm down. I have a tendency of speaking harshly to people when I'm irritated, and this was unfortunately one of those moments. So I told him that, I swear to God, if you don't shape up and start doing some actual work around here, Mom is gonna want a divorce. I knew immediately I shouldn't have said it and he left the room looking really angry. Not sure if it's relevant, but he has been married 2 times before my mom. I told my mom about this and she says that while he should do more work, what I said was really mean and the divorce comment was completely unnecessary. When my dad got home from work the next day I tried to apologize, but he completely ignored me and just went outside. It's been 3 days and he hasn't said a word to me, even though I've tried to say sorry multiple times. My house is now really tense since my dad is also mad at my mom because he thinks she wants to get a divorce. I feel horrible, but honestly, deep down I still agree with the comment I said to him. So, Aita, update, Aita for telling my dad that if he didn't shape up, my mom was going to leave him. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone on my post who commented about their opinions on why I was or wasn't an asshole. Everyone was very kind and you all gave great feedback. The verdict on my post ended up being not the a-hole, though a lot of people said it wasn't my place to speak on behalf of my mom like that. After thinking about it, I agree. My dad was being a jerk, but I really shouldn't have put words in my mom's mouth. Now, for the update. About 2 days after I had posted on here, my parents sat me down and said they wanted to talk. I was prepared to get a lecture about how what I said was out of line, but that's not what happened. Apparently, the reason my dad had gotten so upset at the comment I made was that it hit a little too close to home. It turns out, my dad has been cheating on my mom for about a year with one of his coworkers, and my mom found out a few months ago. The reason she went back to work was because she needed financial independence to get divorced. They said they hadn't been planning on telling me, but my dad decided I was mature enough to know the truth and that I deserved to know. They said they would probably be separated by the end of the year. This situation was completely out of left field, to be honest, because while my dad might not have been the best at doing the dishes, I never thought he would have an affair. My dad has talked to me about how he was so sorry for what he's been doing, and that he hoped I didn't view him differently. I've tried to be kind and not say any more unnecessary comments, but I did let him know that I was really disappointed in him. I needed to get out of the house, so I've been staying with my friend for the past couple of days and processing everything. So, while what I said to him might have been shitty, it resulted in me finding the truth about what was going on, so I'm kind of glad. I'm sorry that this update isn't the happiest or anything, but overall I am doing okay. And thank you again to everyone who commented on my first post, I appreciate it a lot. Stories number 39. AITA, for saying my roommate's parents cannot live with us for a month. I recently moved into a 3-bedroom apartment. There are 3 of us living here, 23F, 24F, and 25F. When I was interviewing for this place, one of my roommates mentioned that her family visits, so they are around sometimes, and said nothing else. It never occurred to me that she meant they stayed in the apartment instead of a hotel, and she never explicitly said that they stayed in the apartment, much less for 2 months out of the year. I had no idea about this until my other roommate informed and told me it has been going on for years and is quite uncomfortable with the mother and specifically the father staying here. It was vaguely mentioned to me in one offhand comment, but she was never told anything at all. When I found out, I went to the property manager to discuss the specifics of our lease and the guest policy, as it is a violation and I wanted to understand the terms. We then had a conversation in person where I said the terms of the lease were acceptable, 14 nights, but nothing longer, when she mentioned that her parents typically stay for a month at a time. She said that she would honor the terms of the lease and gave us dates, but now she is lying and changing them. I am subletting for the summer, so it has been known that I will leave the apartment and then return. Based on our most recent conversation, she would not give a straight answer, and said that she was stretching out the time they would be spending spanning a month, and they would return to stay again a few weeks after that. The current roommate who is staying is also very upset as the parents' visit will now span a month and a half, almost the entire summer. The other issue is that I am having trouble finding someone to sublet my apartment because of these changes. I was willing to lose a few $100s to cover the half month we were told at the beginning of the summer, but now that she has changed the dates it will cost me at least a month or a month and a half's rent, which is now thousands of dollars. We tried to speak to her to come to a solution and she has refused. The more we have discussed, the more we are realizing that she was always planning on having them stay for longer after I left. My final word on the matter was that she has already violated the lease this term by having them stay for a month in the winter, and I do not want to evict her, but I will not lose money over this. They can come for the planned dates for 2 weeks, but no longer. The property managers are aware that this has been an ongoing issue and have offered to help. We have tried twice to have a conversation with her, threatening eviction being our last resort, but she clearly does not respect our space, money, or the lease. Am I the asshole? Stories number 40. Aita for going NC with my infertile sister after having a kid and hers died. My sister went NC with me and some of my siblings because she felt we were not being considerate of her miscarriages. She would tell us not to go to baby shows that some of my siblings' own sibling-in-laws had ECT. Long story short, she went NC with me and my husband after having a baby and said the reason she wouldn't let me meet her kid was because I was not being sensitive enough. She would let everyone else meet her baby and not me and would post it on social media to hurt me. She admitted this to our other sister who told me. I went NC with her from my side and have been in NC with her for a year now. I got pregnant shortly after, and as we have been in NC I did not think she needed to know. Unfortunately she lost her baby girl and I gave birth to twins. My mother recently wrote to me and told me that I should let her meet my twins to bond with them, and she created a group chat where my sister then asked if she could have them once a week to establish a bond with them and take them out ECT. I feel bad for her, but I feel like my NC was violated. I want to support her, but my husband and I don't want her near our kids. How do I best support her? Because I truly love her, but my husband and I don't want her in our lives. Are we the asshole for not wanting her near our kids? Stories number 41. My new boss doesn't like how much holiday I'm taking and has reported me to HR. Reposted from Mildly Infuriating. 65k uproots, and it was deleted, presumably because nobody gets 31 days of holiday. When I originally posted this, I'd taken 11 days of annual leave this year so far. Nothing unusual, did pretty much the same last year and my boss was fine with it. However, new year, new boss, and she seems to be offended that I've dared to take so much time off. I won't share screenshots of the emails for obvious reasons, but our conversation was as follows. My boss: Hi SML, I notice you've taken a lot of PTO recently. I've approved this for now, but when you are back we need to discuss why you are taking so much time off. Thanks, boss. Me: Hi boss, this is nothing new and I have done this every year. I tend to use up some annual leave in the first few months of the year, and then some more in the last few months of the year. Please let me know if you are unhappy with this. Kind regards, SML. Boss: How much PTO do you have? Me: I assume you mean annual leave. I have the company standard 31 days, plus an extra 3 days as negotiated in my contract. I also have 4 days carried over from last year. As of 31/03/25 I will have 27 days left for the year. I plan on taking 11 days in August, 8 days in December, and the remaining 8 days as and when needed. Boss: That seems excessive, we don't have that much PTO, so I'm unsure where your numbers are coming from. I have referred this to HR because I think this isn't right. Me: Okay, fine. I was due to come back on Wednesday, please put me on leave for the rest of this week. If HR agree my holiday terms are correct, I expect the extra 3 days to be gratis. Boss: I don't know what you mean, but fine, I'll see you on Monday morning. I then spoke to HR, we had a polite conversation, as when I joined this company we negotiated a salary match but an extra 3 days of holiday. HR were pretty unimpressed that they were going to be getting a report, and told me, SML, enjoy the week off. Wish I had a boss who'd give me free holiday like that. The boss herself is located overseas and has absolutely no idea about employee rights. When I spoke to my colleagues, letting them know I'd be off for the rest of the week, one of them told me that the same boss also referred a friend of hers to HR because she wanted to take her full 52 weeks of maternity leave in one go. Again, apparently that wasn't acceptable, to which HR said nope, she's good to go, see you in a year. Bring baby photos. Edit, update, the 3 gratis days weren't best explained. I cut that out of my original post to save space, but I realize it doesn't make sense without the extra paragraph. I had told my boss to expect me to take an extra 3 days of annual leave, but I'd confirmed during my time off. This was agreed well before the situation in my topic. However, having been bothered multiple times during my time off, i.e. off work, off the radar, we're allowed to switch off from work when on annual leave, having been disturbed with missed work calls, emails, WhatsApps, and Teams messages, I pushed a bit to get a few extra days off. Worst case scenario, they'd come out of my annual leave. Best case scenario, they'd be free. We're now coming up to halfway through the year and I'm just finishing a week off in May. I've got 22 days left for the rest of the year. 19 days taken so far. The 3 extra days were given for free and this boss has been avoiding me, not sure why. Stories number 42. AITA for refusing to let my pregnant sister move into my apartment after she cheated on her husband and got kicked out. Throwaway because my family knows my name. So I, 28F, live alone in a 2BR apartment that I pay for entirely on my own. I've worked my ass off to get to this point, stable job, decent savings, peace. My sister, 32F, is 5 months pregnant and just blew up her whole life. She cheated on her husband with some guy from her gym, got caught, and he kicked her out. Now she's staying with a friend on their couch and apparently it's not working out. She asked if she could move into my second bedroom, just until the baby comes. I said no. She cried. Our mom called me cold. My aunt said I was punishing her for a mistake. But honestly, I don't want a pregnant woman bringing stress, drama, and eventually a crying baby into my apartment. I didn't sign up to be a co-parent or emotional support system just because she blew up her own life. Plus, she's always had a thing for playing the victim, and she's messy. I know she'll end up staying for way longer than she says. She even hinted at wanting to save money and get back on her feet here, which to me sounds like at least a year. I like my quiet life and I worked hard to build it. Now my whole family is on my case calling me selfish and heartless. But it's my apartment and her decisions that got her here. So, AITA for refusing to let my pregnant sister move in. Stories number 43. I lived in my high school's drama department for 2 weeks and no one noticed, not even the janitor who locked me in once. In high school, I secretly lived in the school theater for 2 weeks after getting into a massive fight with my parents, and nobody noticed. I went to a big public high school with a huge performing arts center. I was part of the tech crew, so I had keys to the prop room, lighting booth, costume closet, all of it. After a nuclear-level fight with my parents, don't even remember what it was about, but it was dramatic, I stormed out and decided not to go home. I didn't tell anyone. I just stayed at school. I'd sleep on the old couch in the costume room, shower in the locker room before class, change into fresh clothes from the lost and found, and pretend everything was normal. I'd hang around after school to help with sets, but really I was just killing time until everyone left. Then I'd sneak back in. The vending machines kept me alive. I once made dinner out of 4 granola bars and a bag of Cheetos. One night I found an old bag of jelly beans in a drawer labeled, "Props, do not eat." I ate them. I got sick. Deserved it. The most insane part? No one caught me. Not a single teacher, janitor, or student. I even took a math test while running on 2 hours of couch sleep and stale Diet Coke. I finally went home after my mom texted me, "I miss you. Can we talk?" And I cried in a pile of fake wigs. To this day, I don't think anyone knows I basically squatted in the drama department like a theatrical raccoon. Stories number 44. Told me I couldn't get time off to go home for holidays, fine I quit. Several years in a row till they couldn't be bothered with the paperwork. Was reminded from a recent post. I worked part-time throughout my studies, UK, on a 0-hour contract at a club pub events venue. This was over a decade ago. They didn't let folk have both Christmas and New Year's off, you had to work one of them. I joined and was made supervisor shortly after cause I had common sense and figure stuff out quickly. I went home for the holidays and when that time came the first year I just said I'd quit. And did. There was no issue with finding another almost minimum wage part-time job. Reapplied in January as they were looking for staff. Rehired. Next holidays come around and I tell them the same thing. Same thing all over again. Next year, they just tell me please don't leave, just take whatever days off and we'll see you again next year. I'm also great friends to this day with my favorite GM from those days, though I went and got a job in my field. Stories number 45. My coworker kept calling me his work wife, his actual wife showed up. So, my coworker John from HR starts saying this weird stuff like, you know, we're basically work spouses, right? I thought it was just a joke, but then he's like, nah FR, we talk more than I do with my wife. I kinda laughed it off at first, but fast forward to last Thursday, his wife actually shows up at the office during lunch with their kid. She sees us chatting in the break room, and suddenly she's like, oh, so you must be her. I've never grabbed my lunch tray and bolted out of there so fast in my life. His face was bright red. I don't think I've ever seen someone go from work wife to awkward silence so quickly. Stories number 46. I lied. Medium. Here I am, working in the back office, taking care of my final tasks for the night. Suddenly, hello, at the top of his lungs, no less. I go out to see who's there. Note that a normal speaking voice would have alerted me to his presence, and here's this royally skeevy dude. I ask him, how can I help you? And he responds, how can I help you? I give him a confused look, and he says, I've been waiting out here for 5 minutes. I know this strategy. Put the front desk person on the back foot so that they think they have to bend over backwards to appease you. That strategy doesn't work on me. I was standing at the desk not 2 minutes ago. I tell him, looking him in the eyes. He quickly gets the idea that I'm not going to be as easy a mark as he'd hoped, and he asks me what our room rate is. Keep in mind, it's 5:15 in the morning. I let him know that by checking in right now, he's only going to have the room for a little under 6 hours. Our checkout time is 11 a.m. and on the occasion that we do early check-ins, it's something like 1 p. or 2 p., not 5:15 in the morning. He says that's fine. I check on our occupancy and I start to quote him the room rate. Our current room RA dash, that's fine. TE is $152 plus tax dash, that's fine. Plus $50 for dash, that's fine. The deposit. That's fine. Literally interrupts me 4 times in one brief sentence. Then tells me that he doesn't even need 6 hours, he's only going to need the room for about 2 hours. This is also a good time to mention that the reek of pot around this guy was so strong that I was standing a good 5 feet away from him and getting a proximity high. Let's be clear on this. Starts off aggressive, is willing to pay almost $200 for 2 hours in a room, reeks of pot, ugh. Asks me if we take Apple Pay. Aha. I see my opportunity and inform him that it needs to be a physical credit card that can be inserted into our reader. He then asks if we take cash, but the answer is still no. Finally, he leaves. Gentlefolk, we can absolutely take Apple Pay. I think we shouldn't, it's just asking for chargebacks, but I honestly didn't want this person in our hotel. My spidey sense was screaming like a fire engine that this guy was gonna make a huge problem out of himself, so I will freely own up to it, I lied. I told him something that wasn't true so that he could take his whatever it is elsewhere. Does anyone else ever do this? Tell a little lie to save later shifts a bunch of pain. Stories number 47. Today I learned almost everyone at work dislikes me. I was notified yesterday that some data on metrics had disappeared and it was affecting a manager negatively. I digged into the issue and found that someone elsewhere had wiped the data I added to a certain report. I escalated the issue to a skip manager because all reports for April were finalized. I gave him a detailed breakdown of what happened with logs and asked him to help me get those reports fixed. The person responsible is a direct report of his, so the email chain devolved into a finger-pointing waste of time. Teammate A butted in and backed me up. Today we were reviewing the resolution of this mess and putting teammate B up to speed. That's when they had this exchange. Teammate B, well of course, skip manager, would try to turn the situation against, he has it in for him. Teammate A, not just, skip manager. I think the entirety of the operations team too. Teammate B, senior managers E and S, are very vocal, but I don't know about senior managers B and A. Teammate A, they may not show it but they let me know they receive a lot of complaints from their reports, and those guys have a chip on their shoulders. As they joked and talked about it in a playful manner, I sat there in silence as the realization sank. Holy shit, everyone around me despises me except for these two. I know this might paint my teammates as mean-spirited to discuss that in front of me. I've been working with them since 2022 and they've always had my back. I've always sensed bad vibes from others, so this shouldn't come as a surprise. But to have all my suspicions confirmed is just... I don't know how to feel. Stories number 49. TA for refusing to let my 2 close friends sleep over at my place after they lied to me about their plans. So, I, teenage girl, have 2 really good friends. One is a close friend, the other is my best friend since literally before we could talk. We've been inseparable since we were 1 year old. Recently, though, she's been spending a lot more time with this other close friend. I've been feeling kinda left out and honestly, a bit jealous, but I've been trying not to let it get to me too much. Today, both of them asked if they could crash at my place tonight. They made it sound like they just wanted to hang out outside and needed a place to sleep because they couldn't stay at each other's houses. I joked, but also kind of meant it, that it felt like they were just using me for a bed, since it seemed like the plan was just the 2 of them hanging out without me, and now suddenly I'm useful because I have a room. Later, one of them called me and admitted they were actually going to a house party tonight and didn't want to go home afterward in that state, so they needed a place to sleep, again, mine. They hadn't told me about the party at all, hadn't invited me, and outright lied about what they were doing earlier. That stung. What hurt more is that I only found out today that my best friend started smoking recently, something she always said she'd never do, especially since we all agreed we were against it. She didn't tell me, but she told this other girl. It feels like she's changed, and I'm being left out of the loop. So when they asked to stay over, I said no. I don't want to feel used, and it hurt that they weren't honest with me. But now I'm wondering if I'm being too sensitive or petty about this. Like, maybe I should have just let them stay, maybe I'm overreacting. AITA for saying no and feeling hurt that they lied to me and left me out. Update, AITA for refusing my two close friends sleepover at my place after they lied to me about their plans. Thanks to everyone who responded. I really appreciated the outside perspective because I felt like I was starting to gaslight myself. So after I told them they couldn't sleep at my place, I honestly thought that would be the end of it. I figured they'd find somewhere else to stay and that would be that. But nope. Around 1 a.m., they started calling me non-stop, like 10 or 15 times. I texted back and said I couldn't talk because I was watching TV with my mom, and she was still half awake. Just to be clear, there was no way they could have snuck in without her noticing, and I didn't want to deal with that. Then one of them started sending voice messages and texting me again, saying stuff like, "Please, can we come now?" And then basically guilt-tripping me, saying they'd have to sleep at a random bus stop in the cold if I didn't let them in. So I replied something like, "You lied to me about just walking around at night, then I find out you're going to a party without even telling me or asking if I wanted to come. Now you expect to crash at my place. That feels like I'm just your backup plan. I'm not a hotel. I don't want trouble with my mom because you're showing up in the middle of the night. I already told you no. If you didn't sort out another place to sleep, that's not my fault. Please just go home." Her reply, "Yeah but bro you weren't invited lol, bro chill," then NVMIG, which honestly just confirmed how little she cared about how I felt. No apology, no acknowledgement, just brushing it off. That's the update. Stories number 50. Wibta if I told my brother the real reason our family fell apart. About 3 years ago, my F21 parents split apart and are currently undertaking divorce proceedings. My brother, 18M, is currently living with my dad while I live with my mom, with their houses only being about 20 minutes away from one another. Both my parents are very tense and are not civil during these proceedings. When they announced their divorce, I had learnt that my mom had an emotional affair for a few months and this had led to the divorce. This has led my brother to blame my mother for ruining the family and blaming her for the split of my family, and they are not currently speaking. However, I know that my dad had a physical affair before this occurred and had heard him and his AP being physical in the house while my mother was home. However, my dad does not know this information, or that I know he has cheated. My father is currently blaming my mother for splitting the family apart and is one of the driving reasons for my brother not speaking to my mother, and says that she cheated on him, hypocrite. My question is Wibta if I told my brother the real version of what happened. Some things to consider are, my parents are underway with divorce proceedings and if this causes many tensions between them this can cause financial stress between the both of them and my mom could lose lots of money. My mom is aware I know of the affair however is worried about any implications of telling anyone. Many people who have chosen my dad's side in the divorce are aware of this. Stories number 51. When are your kids moving out? I have 4 kids. 28, 23, 21, and 19. The 3 youngest still live at home. My oldest moved out at 19 and has managed to make it on her own. Not easily. But she's done it and we're proud and supportive of her. I just got back from going to see my niece graduate college. People there, extended family on my brother-in-law's side, niece's boyfriend's family, kept asking me when my 3 youngest will be moving out on their own. They all have jobs while pursuing a degree or certification for other careers. They pay $300 a month to help with groceries and rent. My husband and I are happy with this arrangement. Why are people so obsessed with your children having to move out right after high school graduation or after turning 18? My kids are respectful, help around the house and we all enjoy each other's company. What's the problem? Everyone acted like we were some anomaly and it was absurd that they were still at home. Why? Is it so bad that my kids don't hate living at home for the time being? Who wants their kid to struggle? This economy is crazy and I'm so irritated that people look down on us for not rushing to get that empty nest. Just because you don't like your kids doesn't mean we don't. My kids come and go and pull their weight, and we all respect each other's space and business. Are we perfect? No. But heck, I'd rather know my young adult kids have a safe place to sleep and can save money while building their future. Are we really that weird? I'm sick of people looking at me weird or giving rude comments about how we choose to live. It's not that weird. Sorry you hate your kids. Stories number 52. Aita for finding out I've been unknowingly paying rent to my husband and his mom for 2 years. I, 31F, have been married to Brian, 33M, for 2 years. Right after the wedding, we moved into an apartment he said was a great deal from a family friend. We agreed to split rent and utilities 50-50 to keep things equal since we were starting fresh and wanted to avoid money fights. So I've been sending him $700 a month just for the rent this whole time. 3 days ago, at a barbecue, I overheard his mom talking about how it's nice getting rent from Brian's place and how smart they were to keep it in the family. Turns out his mom owned the apartment, and Brian's on the deed too. I had no idea. He never told me. Just let me keep paying rent for 2 years like a clueless roommate. When I confronted him, he said I never asked and that I'm overreacting because we weren't overpaying. But I feel completely blindsided. It's not just the money, it's the secrecy. I told him I won't keep paying until we talk about a fair setup. Now he's acting like I'm the problem. Aita. Stories number 53. Am I overreacting for refusing to eat at a restaurant that messed up my order once? Okay, the title sounds ridiculous, I know, but hear me out. I am gluten-free, not by choice but out of medical necessity. I became allergic about 5 years ago, so it's not new, and I have gotten pretty good about eating out without being completely obnoxious, and I know my limits with ingesting gluten. When I went out with friends last month, I ordered a cheeseburger with no bun and subbed the side of fries with steamed veggies to avoid leftover gluten in the fryer. When the plate came, it had fries and a bun. I asked the waitress if my plate could be remade because I was allergic to gluten. She gave me attitude, told me potatoes don't have gluten so I can eat fries, and to take the bun off because the kitchen was slammed. I told her I could wait and didn't need to be prioritized, but to please just have my food remade. When it finally came, it came out in a takeout box with all the checks. I wasn't about to make a fuss and I was just planning on going home after, so I figured I'd eat the takeout at home and say oh well. But on my check I was charged for 2 meals, with an upcharge for substitutions on both. I went to the bartender and got 1 meal taken off my bill and tipped her nicely in cash, but decided to never eat there again. So last night I had family over and they wanted to order in, specifically from the same place that got my order wrong last month. I told them that's fine, but I would order from somewhere nearby and just go pick them both up. I thought this was reasonable, but my family looked at me like I just suggested a lion go vegan. They told me they thought I was out of my childish phase and that not eating gluten wouldn't help me drop the extra weight I'd put on. It was such a massive overreaction to me, and I don't know why they felt the need to comment on my weight, which I wasn't concerned about until they said that. So I explained the situation, that I had a bad experience there with a simple ask, and they doubled down that it's immature to never eat there again and to inconvenience everyone else just because I don't want some carbs. I dropped it because I was so shocked and just ordered from the restaurant next door. Turns out they have the same generic brown takeout boxes, so when I got back and we ate, everyone was telling me, see, don't you feel silly now, everything is fine, and that I needed to stop being a Karen. It's the next day and I just feel like it was so weird, and I wanted to share what is kinda a funny and lighthearted story, but I'm also slightly wondering if I am overreacting by not going there again. Update. Am I overreacting for refusing to eat at a restaurant that messed up my order once? What I thought would be a pretty lighthearted am I overreacting question turned into quite a family saga and a trip to the real damn fast, so I wanted to update my silly restaurant boycott story. But before the saga, here's a happy update. One of my friends knew I had a throwaway Reddit account and saw this post on it and called the health department herself and reported the restaurant, then left a long and seething review, and even went back and talked to the manager about our exact waitress. She was there and had already shit-talked the restaurant with me, but knowing all this made her go nuclear. God, I love her. So the drama. I wrote this post the morning after the original dinner happened. The dinner was decent, but I was very quiet, and then reading all the supportive comments calling out my family's behavior was really making me think. So when my sister called me later in the day to ask why I was so weird at dinner, I had already been thinking about it and I kinda snapped. I said that I was quiet because I was so hurt by the things others said and nobody defended me, per usual. Meanwhile my friend went out and fought for me even when she didn't have to. So she and I fought about what was said, if I was being too sensitive, and even about if my allergy was as serious as I claim. I told her I didn't need this and hung up. My mom texted me later, so did my brother, and again my sister. All saying that we should drop it and we're family and this is silly. I put them all in a group chat and said yes, it is silly to fight with me over my own medical diagnosis and the food that I eat that has nothing to do with them. I didn't need my family to treat me like this when I have friends and other family that don't, and they can talk when they're done being the immature ones. I put my phone on do not disturb and finished my work day. Yes, this was all during a work day. My night was relaxing. My husband cooked a delicious gluten-free meal while I explained all this. He was out of town when it happened, and he was the perfect hype man and started highlighting more toxic behavior from my immediate family I have been blind to. And then, like a sitcom with ironic timing, there's a knock on the door. My mom and sister came over to make amends and brought dessert from a gluten-free bakery. There are multiple around us, I didn't question it. I'm sure you're yelling at me to question it, I should have. We sat down to talk and I grabbed a cupcake, one bite and I knew by the texture it was not gluten-free. I spit it out and just looked at them, waiting for them to admit it. My sister had a look of slight fear while my mom sat there looking smug. All she said was, "Gluten won't kill you, honey, you grabbed that cupcake pretty fast, that's a bigger concern." I was holding back tears from the feeling of betrayal and ran to my husband who was giving us space. He already had the keys and gave me my shoes to put on and we left to go to the He stopped at the door to say, "You are never welcome in this house again," and he took me to the I could feel my throat tightening as I was sobbing in the passenger seat. I was seen right away at the hospital and I'm fine now, and writing this while waiting to be discharged as a way to process what the hell just happened. I feel like I opened my eyes and lost my entire family in under 24 hours. But the two hot takes family sure knew what was up, and my husband and my friends are plenty for me to feel loved and taken care of. Stories number 54. Mom thinks I didn't deserve the money I earned and thinks I'm spoiled and stingy for wanting to keep it. Am I in the wrong here? For context, I work with my dad sometimes for his catering company. He had an event with a lot of people and needed extra help, so I came with him. I woke up at 6 a.m., got there at 7 a.m., and started preparing the food until people arrived outside at about 10 a.m. My job was to bring the food outside on carts and set it on the table. The event lasted until 1:30 p.m., and then we cleaned up and left around 4:30. It was a lot, but honestly, it was nice to be able to help out and do something important. Later that day, my dad gave me a $100 bill for helping out, and as expected, my mom freaked out and said I didn't deserve that much money and said to give it to her instead. This is basically how the conversation went. Mom, squinting, "Where did you get that from?" Me, "Dad gave it to me for helping out at the catering event today." Mom, $100. That's way too much. You don't need that much money. Me, "I woke up at 6 a.m., worked non-stop from 7 to 4:30. That's 9 hours of work." Mom, still. You're just a helper, not a full employee. You should give that to me so it's not wasted. Me, "What? No way. I earned it. Dad gave it to me." Mom, "You live under my roof. That money should go back to the family." Me, "And I just helped feed like 500 people today. I think I can keep one bill without it being seen as a crime." Mom, stares at me like I'm crazy. "I just want to be able to have my own money and my own stuff. It just feels good to have something that I paid for. I've had so many times where she'll break my things or take my money because I didn't buy it myself. Now today she's talking about it again, says I've always been spoiled and that I'm just being stingy for not wanting to give money to her, my mother. Most of me feels like I should have the money, but now my dad has done a complete 180 and says I should give the money back as well. So I don't know if I should just give it back so things don't escalate for no good reason, or if I should just keep the money I worked for. Update: Mom thinks I didn't deserve the money I earned and thinks I'm spoiled and stingy for wanting to keep it. So, it's been almost 2 weeks since all that went down, and I figured I'd update. I ended up spending a little bit of the money at a local bookstore. I got a couple of books I'd been eyeing for a while. It felt nice to treat myself with something I earned. The rest of the money I didn't feel comfortable just keeping in my wallet or room where my mom might look while I'm out of the house, so I tucked it inside one of my school books. After returning from the bookstore, I told her I'd already spent all of it. She wasn't thrilled, but since there was nothing left, she kind of just let it go. I hated lying, but honestly, after how quick she was to try and take it from me, I felt like I didn't have much of a choice. It sucks feeling like I have to hide what I earn just to keep it safe, but at the same time, I think it made me realize how much I like doing things myself and being able to buy my own things, even if it's just a little money. Stories number 55. I will tell you how this deal works. One early spring, I decided to sell our travel trailer. It was only a few years old, looked new inside and out, priced right, and it was prime time of year to sell. I knew it would be gone after a showing or two. The first family shows up, after an odd phone call. The wife does all the talking, but made it clear that her husband, Glenn, makes the decisions in the family. She asks a ton of questions on the phone, so she could give the info to Glenn. Glenn is in the room with her as this is going on. Weird, but whatever. They roll in and I meet Glenn. He tries to avoid eye contact and is trying to play a power game. The wife and kids are in love with the camper, polite and friendly. Glenn is a dick. As I answer his questions, he occasionally smirks. At this point, I am not interested in selling him dog shit fresh from my backyard, but I am not lowering myself to his behavior. I give him the respect he does not deserve, taking the high road, since his poor wife and kids don't need to see me telling him to GTFO. Eventually Glenn says, I am going to be giving you $XX, we will be back next weekend with the check. He barks at his wife and kids to get back in the car. I tell him that I did not agree to any price. Maybe it will still be around next weekend, maybe not. He smirks again, and drives away. Glenn's price was exactly what I would have accepted from any potential buyer who was not a dick. At that point I was clear about one thing, Glenn will never end up with my camper because, well, you know. The next day, a couple shows up to look at the trailer. They are slack-jawed at the price and condition, and ask what I will take for it, as they can meet me later in the day, with cash. I offer to sell it to them for Glenn's price. A few hours later, I have a fat stack of $100 bills in hand, and they leave with the trailer, thrilled with the deal. The next Friday, just as I expected, Glenn's abused wife calls. She tells me that they got a loan and want to pick the trailer up tomorrow. I play dumb and ask what she means. After she explains it again, I drop a bomb. So sorry, but it is gone. I tell her that all Glenn had to do was respectfully offer the amount he told me I would be taking, then leave a deposit check, and you would be picking up your camper tomorrow. I reminded her that she was standing there when I told Glenn that we had not agreed to a price, and it was still very much for sale to whomever wanted it. Finally, I told her to make sure that Glenn knows that it's sold, for his price, the next day. So sad, seems that Glenn was a dick, who got the dick, on this one. Stories number 56. I spent a night in bed with another man, and never told anyone. When I was like 22, I attended a conference at a hotel. My stay at the hotel was covered by my college, but I drove myself there. Well, the night I had to check out, there was this massive storm. I was terrified of driving home in it. But I was broke, and couldn't afford to pay for a room on my own. I was trying to work something out at the front desk, and started sobbing. A guy from my college, who I barely knew, saw me crying, and said he was staying another night. He said I could stay with him, as long as I'd be comfortable sharing a bed. His room only had one. Of course I was scared of sharing a bed with a random dude. And I was dating a horrible, jealous, and controlling man-child. He'd be furious if he found out. But I was so desperate, so I just went ahead and did it. Looking back at it, I am so lucky that nothing happened. The guy was perfectly respectful. He never once tried to make a move on me, or do something that would make me uncomfortable, for the entire night. And my boyfriend at the time, thankfully my ex now, never found out about it. I've never shared this with anyone. And I still don't think I necessarily did anything wrong. I wasn't trying to cheat, or lead another guy on. I was just desperate, and needed somewhere to sleep. Stories number 57. Entitled Neighbor thinks my driveway is community property, starts parking there without asking. I got home from work last Friday, totally wiped, and there's a random SUV parked right in my driveway. Not halfway in. Not kinda on the curb. Just fully centered like it paid rent or something. I actually double-checked the house number like maybe I was losing my mind. Nope, definitely my house. So I walked next door and knock. Karen opens the door wearing a fluffy pink robe and holding a glass of wine like it's 2 p.m. at a country club. "Oh, that's Todd's car," she says, as if that explains everything. "We have friends over and you weren't using it, so." I told her politely at first that it's my property, not a public overflow lot. She just blinked and goes, "Well, we're a community, aren't we? Sharing is caring." "Lady, I don't even share fries. You think I'm sharing concrete?" I told her next time it happens, I'm calling a tow truck, full stop. She got all offended and muttered, "Some people are just so unfriendly." Right. I'm the bad guy for not letting Todd park his midlife crisis on land. Hope you enjoy walking. Deeberly Moonwhistle, Bika, your curb privileges have been revoked. Stories number 58. My husband is the worst parent I've ever met. This morning I woke up in a state I can't explain. I'm stuck in bed, conscious but stuck, almost like the world's longest panic attack. So my husband began cussing and throwing my textbooks at me. Turns out he locked our 19-month-old in his room. It's noon by the time I can finally crawl to his door. He's shitty and obviously starving. My husband tells me it's all my fault because I didn't wake up when our son did at 8 a.m. So he left our toddler crying from 8 a.m. to noon. I changed his diapers and made breakfast, trying to make today go as normal as possible. Then here goes the vacuum. My son hates the vacuum to the point that he will not eat breakfast now. I don't know when his next meal will be now. He's so distressed. He won't drink anything and just wants to be held. Comments. My mother is far and wants us there. My closer family is just across state lines but have told me multiple times that if we get there they will shoot if they have to. Even though he knows where they live, he won't make it through the front door. He won't leave. I've tried. He says he's not leaving without his son. Which of course, is a big no. I'm a full-time student. I have a work-study lined up so I could bring in a little money, but the background check takes some time. He's not letting me walk out there with my son. I don't know what I'll do if I try, and I'm scared to figure out. I have to go meet with a woman about early intervention Thursday. I'll be alone. Maybe if I drop so hints she can point me in the right direction, if not more. Since I'm pretty sure locking up a toddler for that long is abuse, she should be required to report it. Update: my husband is the worst parent I ever met. Not going into details just in case, but we leave tomorrow. The whole plan depends on me now. Once I get my son into car in the morning, everything is in place. I'm terrified. I don't know if I can do it without waking my husband. I don't know anything anymore, and isn't abuse great? My mind keeps me it's okay. He didn't mean to. He'll never do it again. He will, or worse. My heart is trying to stop me from leaving, but I can no forgive. I have to go and never look back. This is the hardest thing I've ever been through, but my son will not only be away from this man but will be somewhere with better healthcare, schools and all other resources. Update: left son to do a welfare check and grab belonging. Brother is coming with me and mutual friend is supposed to hang out until I get there. That's 2 men, one of which is armed. Hopefully it goes smoothly because my brother will take him out if needed. Not OP, who the heck sends a video crying and promising change? That's some serious manipulation crap right there. Please don't buy it, OP. Your life and the life of your child are at risk. I'm good. Far from home and nervous. Yeah. He faked unconscious to get me home but didn't put up a fight while I grabbed our things. Nice clean in and out. We're on the other of the country now. There's no worries here. My family isn't something to miss with. I don't plan to make a choice for a while. He stopped texting me. So I guess he's either dead or wants me to believe he is. I don't know which one is scarier. We're safe and across the country. Stories number 59. AITA for refusing to let my 2 close friends sleep over at my place after they lied to me about their plans. So, I, teenage girl, have 2 really good friends. One is a close friend, the other is my best friend since literally before we could talk. We've been inseparable since we were 1 year old. Recently, though, she's been spending a lot more time with this other close friend. I've been feeling kinda left out and honestly, a bit jealous, but I've been trying not to let it get to me too much. Today, both of them asked if they could crash at my place tonight. They made it sound like they just wanted to hang out outside and needed a place to sleep because they couldn't stay at each other's houses. I joked, but also kind of meant it, that it felt like they were just using me for a bed, since it seemed like the plan was just the 2 of them hanging out without me, and now suddenly I'm useful because I have a room. Later, one of them called me and admitted they were actually going to a house party tonight and didn't want to go home afterward in that state, so they needed a place to sleep, again, mine. They hadn't told me about the party at all, hadn't invited me, and outright lied about what they were doing earlier. That stung. What hurt more is that I only found out today that my best friend started smoking recently, something she always said she'd never do, especially since we all agreed we were against it. She didn't tell me, but she told this other girl. It feels like she's changed, and I'm being left out of the loop. So when they asked to stay over, I said no. I don't want to feel used, and it hurt that they weren't honest with me. But now I'm wondering if I'm being too sensitive or petty about this. Like, maybe I should have just let them stay, maybe I'm overreacting. AITA for saying no and feeling hurt that they lied to me and left me out. Stories number 60. My mom's a loser. When I was 20, my mom slept with my then boyfriend who was 29 at the time. I'm 28 now and I haven't spoken to my mom in 2 years. She texted me and asked me to come to this Mother's Day event over the weekend. I haven't responded her. She was a terrible mom. She is a serial cheater. She took all of my dad's money in the divorce. She refused to give my dad custody of me even though I would be better off with my dad than her. My mom kept me held back in school longer so she can get child support longer. My stepdad molested me when I was in 5th grade, 6th grade. She doesn't know that happened, but she knew there was something off about him. I never wanted to tell her because I knew she wouldn't have done anything. My mom is selfish. She also abused my childhood dog and abandoned my dog at a highway in the middle of the night. She said we couldn't afford him anymore. She was addicted to painkillers. She was always out at the bar. I remember her bringing home random men to our house. I've walked in on my mom having sex so many times. I've seen my mom naked so many times. I've seen her boyfriends naked a couple times, they act like no one else lived there, it was like a brothel. My mom also used the money on my college to pay for a mini facelift. All my mom has is her beauty. She fools people with her looks. But she's a terrible person. I don't think she will ever learn her lesson until she starts to look hideous.